Chapter 29. What made Ningcheng shocked was that among these four people, the one with the lowest cultivation level was at the Qi Gathering 6th level, while the one with the highest cultivation level was the blue-robed youth, who was at the Qi Gathering 8th level. The age of these four people was not much older than him, but the cultivation level of these four people was far beyond him and an E. Who do you think you are? Daring to speak to me like that in the Mingot city? When Miao Wenhong heard these words, his anger immediately flared up. In the Mingot city, there were actually people who dared to speak to Miao Wenhong in such an arrogant manner. Did they not know that Miao Wenhong was the young master of the Wolf Palace? Sanpai, kill him. Miao Wenhong did not even finish his angry words, and immediately instructed the servant behind him to kill the guy who had just spoken. In the Mingot city, Miao Wenhong, killed a person. It was as simple as pinching an ant. Miao Wenhong was completely irrational in his anger, but that did not mean that his servant was also irrational. Hearing Miao Wenhong's unreasonable command, the servant behind Miao Wenhong quickly came forward and whispered in his ear, "Young Master Wenhong, they are the people from the Ping Continent's Clear Heart 3-Star Academy. Look at the badges on their chests." This servant called Sanpai had already seen it clearly. The lowest cultivation level of these people was not worse than him. Not to mention that he could not beat them. Even if he could beat them, he could not afford to provoke them. Hearing the old servant's reminder, Miao Wenhong immediately reacted. He had certainly heard of the Clear Heart 3-Star Academy. Just now he was infuriated by the words of the blue-robed youth, so he spoke without thinking. Although the Wolf Palace was powerful, but it was only a small part of the Mingot city and the Mingot Sea. Even in the entire Mingot Sea, the Wolf Palace was nothing. Not to mention compared to the Clear Heart 3-Star Academy. The Clear Heart 3-Star Academy belonged to the Ping Continent's Ming-Yi country, even if this academy did not have any relationship with the Ming-Yi country. A 3-Star Academy was not something that the Mingot city could do, not to mention the trivial Wolf Palace. Ningcheng at this time also saw clearly. The four people's badges on their chests were engraved with the words Clear Heart 3-Star Academy. Below these words, there was also a very dazzling star. Seeing the expressions of these four people, Ningcheng secretly sighed in his heart, thinking that this 3-Star Academy was really awesome. Even the students who came out were so tough. This was the benefit of having a backer. It seemed like he would have to find a big school to rely on someday. However, when Ningcheng thought about his spiritual root, he immediately dispelled this idea. With his spiritual root, even if it was a 1-star academy, it would be very difficult for him to enter, not to mention an advanced academy. Moreover, Ningcheng did not dare to go in. His spiritual roots were constantly improving along with his cultivation. Once his spiritual roots improved to a certain extent, then wouldn't he be discovered by others? So it turns out to be the 4 elder brothers from the Starry Sky Academy. This Wenhong is very polite. I was blind a moment ago. Please forgive me. This Miao Wenhong was also flexible. After understanding that these 4 people were from the Clear Heart Academy, he immediately changed to a smiling face. The blue-robed youth who had spoken before raised his hand and slapped out. Miao Wenhong simply did not think that he would be slapped in the face. Or rather, even if he had thought of it, he wouldn't have been able to avoid this slap. With that, he was sent flying, spitting out more than 10 teeth and a mouthful of blood. How domineering! The people who were secretly watching all sucked in a breath of cold air. The Mingot city's Wolf Palace's young master Wenhong was sent flying like a piece of garbage. Lu Yen reacted in a flash. She immediately smiled and came forward to greet the blue-robed youth. Lu Hohai Village's Lu Yen greets elder brother. Elder brother, is the Clear Heart 3-Star Academy far away? You are really amazing to be able to cultivate in that kind of academy. Lu Yen is very envious. While speaking, Lu Yan's face was filled with worship and admiration. She could not wait to take out an autograph book and let the opposite party sign it. The blue-robed youth's attitude towards Lu Yen and Miao Wenhong was completely different. When he heard Lu Yan's words, he immediately smiled, and his face eased up. The Clear Heart 3-Star Academy is not far, but it is also not close. It depends on how you get there. If you want to use a beast carriage to get there, then I am afraid it would be very difficult. Lu Yen, can I take the liberty to ask elder brother's name? I am really looking forward to going to the Clear Heart 3-Star Academy. The worship on Lu Yan's face was getting stronger and stronger. My name is Le Bohong. If you want to go to the Clear Heart 3-Star Academy, it is not impossible. After a year, our Clear Heart 3-Star Academy will be recruiting students from all over the Ping continent. You can still try it out. The blue-robed youth's tone was getting more and more gentle. It seemed that he did not even make a move a moment ago. Lu Yan was immediately pleasantly surprised and said, "Elder brother Lu, this is really great. I must let my father take me there to have a look." "Right, elder brother Lu, you and the other 2 elder brothers and an elder sister have just arrived at the Mingot city. You must be very tired. If you do not mind, you can go to my Hohai village to rest. I can also follow behind you and learn a thing or two." Le Bohong waved his hand and said, "There is no need to go to the Hohai village. We will go to the rest stop." Lu Yan's face showed a strong disappointment. She seemed to think of Ning Cheng and an E. She quickly put on a smile and walked in front of an E and said, "This younger sister, would you like to help me persuade elder brother Lu, and then you can also come to my Hohai village?" Lu Yan did not speak to an E, so Le Bohong did not see an E, but now that Lu Yan spoke, Le Bohong immediately noticed an E. His eyes suddenly lit up. This young girl was really too pretty. Ning Cheng sneered in his heart. How could he not understand Lu Yan's trick? Le Bohong's attitude towards her and Miao Wenhong was completely different. It showed that Le Bohong liked to treat women with kindness, or rather, he liked women. She let an E go to the Hohai village so that Le Bohong could find an excuse to get close to an E, and then they could all go to the Hohai village together. Of course, this was based on the fact that Le Bohong liked an E. If Le Bohong did not like an E, then she would just be a blind person. Ning Cheng did not wait for Le Bohong to speak, and shouted at Lu Yan, "Get lost, trash." Le Bohong forcibly swallowed the words, "Why don't we go to the Hohai village together?" and looked at Ning Cheng with a puzzled expression. He did not understand why Ning Cheng was so angry. Ning Cheng ignored Lu Yan's face, and cupped his fists towards Le Bohong and the others and said, "Many thanks to this friend for your help." Le Bohong had already recovered. He had seen that there seemed to be some contradiction between Ning Cheng and Lu Yan, but he did not think that Ning Cheng would actually tell Lu Yan to get lost. Now that Ning Cheng thanked him, he also cupped his fists and said, "It's just a small matter, it's not worth mentioning. I haven't asked for this friend's name, so that we can have a drink together. My name is Ning Cheng. Just now my cousin and I were bitten by 2 mad dogs in the Mingot city. Now I do not want to continue to stay here. Brother Li's help today, this Ning will remember it." Ning Cheng did not want to have a deep friendship with these people, and quickly cupped his fists and refused. He had already offended Miao Wenhong and Lu Yan here. He was not a fool. Why would he continue to stay here? Besides, these students from the Clear Heart 3-Star Academy did not seem to be easy to get along with. The worst cultivation level was at the Qi Gathering 6th level. He simply could not compare to them. Hearing that Ning Cheng was not willing to go with them, Le Bohong's eyes flashed with disappointment. He inadvertently glanced at an E, and then smiled and said to Ning Cheng, "Brother Ning, the Clear Heart 3-Star Academy will be recruiting students from the entire Ping continent in a year. With the elegance of Brother Ning and your cousin, if you can enter the Clear Heart Academy, you will certainly be able to go to the next level." Ning Cheng certainly wanted to participate in the recruitment, but unfortunately his spiritual root was too poor. However, if an E had the opportunity, staying in the Clear Heart Academy would be much better than following him around. Fortunately, this matter was still early, and besides, he still had to seek an Yi's opinion. Thinking till here, he once again said, "Thank you, Brother Lu. Next year if I have the opportunity, I will definitely go to the Clear Heart Academy to try my luck. Today I will be leaving first. Goodbye." "Good, next year I will be waiting for Brother Ning at the Clear Heart Academy," Le Bohong said with enthusiasm, but unfortunately an E never said a word, nor did she even look at him. Miao Wenhong was beaten to the point that his mouth was full of blood. With the help of his servant, he did not even dare to say half a word. He could only helplessly watch Le Bohong leave. Even if it was Ning Cheng and an E, he did not dare to come forward and talk nonsense. Lu Yan was also staring at the backs of Ning Cheng and an E. She swore that she would definitely kill Ning Cheng without a doubt. Ning Cheng and Le Bohong said their goodbyes, and took an E to the Mingot city to help him, and an E buy more than a dozen sets of clothes, and also bought a few maps of the Mingot Sea, and then hurriedly left the Mingot city. After experiencing these things, Ning Cheng was very clear that the Mingot city was not a place where he could live, at least not now. Big brother Ning, that Lu Yen is so enthusiastic, why do I always feel uncomfortable looking at her? Since she wanted to invite me, why did she threaten my big brother? Yi did not understand the ways of the world. For this kind of complex interpersonal relationship, she could not understand it at all. Ning Cheng sneered and said, "That woman is a piece of glass. A piece of glass is fine, but unexpectedly she is an arrogant piece of glass." What is a glass? Yi did not understand. Ning Cheng waved his hand and said, "You don't need to know about these things, that Le Bohong is not simple, staying in the Mingot city will not bring us any benefits, let's go somewhere else." With Le Bohong's identity, he could have killed Miao Wenhong, but he unexpectedly endured it, and only slapped Miao Wenhong in the face. It could be seen that this person was not as straightforward as he appeared on the surface. He should have known that killing Miao Wenhong would not be a problem, but there would be some troubles. Ning Cheng and Yi rushed all the way. After half a day, they had already left the Mingot city far behind. Ning Cheng was still thinking about what Le Bohong and the others wanted to do in the Mingot Sea. The Mingot Sea was a gathering place for rogue cultivators. Some of the people with status came here to gain experience. In Ning Cheng's view, if Le Bohong did not have any important matter, then he would definitely kill that Miao Wenhong. Are the two friends going out to sea? A hearty voice called out to Ning Cheng and Yi from afar. Chapter 30. Along with this hearty voice, there was a burst of hurried hoofbeats. "You let me eat such a big loss and still want to leave?" Miao Wenhong's voice was almost roaring. It could be seen that his hatred for Ning Cheng was very deep. The boatman who was greeting Ning Cheng and Yi with the intention of calling out for business, when he saw the horned stone howling beast and Miao Wenhong riding on it, his complexion suddenly changed. He did not even ask Ning Cheng a second sentence. He turned around and walked away. In just a short time, he rushed to the seaside reef pier on the boat. The next moment, the boat weighed the anchor and entered the vast sea. Ning Cheng did not care about the boatman. He was surprised that Miao Wenhong actually dared to chase after them. Miao Wenhong not only chased after them, but he only brought a Qi Gathering 6th level servant with him. He did not bring anyone else. With just two people, did they think they could eat him and Yi? He could kill a cultivator at the Qi Gathering 5th level, so he was not afraid of a cultivator at the Qi Gathering 6th level. Ning Cheng certainly did not know that the mysterious yellow Qi could cleanse the meridians in defiance of the heaven. For a cultivator at the Qi Gathering 6th level, to kill two cultivators at the Qi Gathering 4th level, it was really not difficult. Not to mention that in the eyes of Miao Wenhong and his servant, Ning Cheng and Yi were lambs to be slaughtered. They did not have even half a bit of fighting experience. "San Pai, first cripple this bastard, I will slowly let this kid understand." Miao Wenhong had not yet arrived, but was staring at Ning Cheng while gnashing his teeth. Obviously in his view, today he had lost face in the Mingot city, all because of Ning Cheng. San Pai was a very loyal servant. He seemed to understand the meaning of his young master's words. He had not yet arrived in front of Ning Cheng, when he immediately flew up from his one-horned beast, and simultaneously swept out a white blade light towards Ning Cheng. This white blade light swept towards Ning Cheng's feet. It seems that he really did not want to kill Ning Cheng. This was an artifact. Ning Cheng felt the blade light coming towards him. He immediately understood. Before, when he was fighting with the rusty-faced man at the Qi Gathering 5th level, the other party was using an ordinary weapon, although the grade was not low, but a weapon and an artifact were simply not the same concept. San Pai was just a servant, but he had an artifact on his body. It seems that Miao Wenhong had even more good things on him. Ning Cheng did not even think about it. At the same time as the white light streaked over, his flying sword had already fallen into his hands, and he immediately used the same sword light to chop it down. San Pai did not think that Ning Cheng would dare to make a move. A trivial ordinary sword actually dared to block his artifact. This was simply courting death. But San Pai's idea was completely shattered by the harsh sound of the collision. The sword in Ning Cheng's hands was not like what he had imagined. It was not like it was broken into pieces like tofu, but rather the huge sword light that was emitted from the sword light had completely smashed apart his blade light. A powerful true Qi backlash came. Sanpai felt as if his chest had been hit by a huge hammer. Not good. This kid had concealed his cultivation. He was definitely at the Qi gathering 6th level. Moreover, his foundation was very deep. His Qi was not even half a bit worse than his own. Sanpai was pushed back a few steps by the formidable backlash, but at the same time he understood that Ning Cheng was not only not at the Qi gathering 4th level, but also that the artifact in his hands was much higher than his own artifact. Sanpai and Ning Cheng had only exchanged blows for a moment, but from Ning Cheng's ferocious attacks and Ning Cheng's initiative to pounce on him, he knew that if he could not beat him today, then he and his young master would definitely be killed by this person. This was an extremely daring cultivator. It seemed that he did not even consider the consequences of killing his young master. Psst. Fire. Sanpai saw that Ning Cheng was not affected even half a bit. Moreover, he once again sent out a sword light. He suddenly felt surprised in his heart. He no longer cared about anything else. He raised his hand and took out a talisman from his body. At the same time he stimulated his Qi, the blade in his hands immediately brought out 2 different colored blade lights. One side was ice, the other side was fire. The 2 different blade lights wrapped around Ning Cheng's sword light. Ning Cheng suddenly felt his Qi stagnate. He felt that regardless of whether he gathered his Qi to block the fire light or block the ice light, he could only block one of the blade lights, allowing the other one to increase in power. Not only Ning Cheng, but any low-leveled cultivator who stimulated their Qi to attack the enemy would naturally produce a kind of resistance because of the opponent's Qi attribute. The opponent was a fire-attributed cultivator, so when he blocked the opponent's fire Qi attack, it was bound to produce a kind of resistance against the fire-attributed Qi and relatively weaken the resistance against the ice-attributed Qi. But some of the low-leveled cultivators with rich combat experience have their own unique methods. Ning Cheng's combat experience was simply not rich. This kind of fire and ice-attributed blade lights immediately made him unable to attend to one thing and lose sight of the other. Ning Cheng was able to block the fire light, but he was not able to completely block the ice light. Fortunately, his Qi was not the slightest bit weaker than his opponent. Even the purity of his Qi was several times stronger than his opponent. In a hurry, Ning Cheng's mind flashed with a few twisting movements. It was the twisting movements of the rusty-faced cultivator. At that time he had sent out 6 fire blades. The opposite party had only blocked 3 of the fire blades. The other 3 he could not block, but he was able to avoid them by twisting. That kind of twisting body technique, in Ning Cheng's mind in just a twinkling of an eye, when Sanpai shot out this ice light, Ning Cheng had already learnt this twisting method, and twisted his body into a slanted fried dough twist. Puff. A blood sprayed out, but Ning Cheng's heart was actually relieved. A moment ago he could not completely avoid the ice light, but he was able to avoid his vital organs, and only suffered a minor injury. After Sanpai used the ice and fire blades, his face suddenly turned pale. It could be seen that these 2 blades had consumed a lot of his Qi. But not waiting for him to recover, Ning Cheng's sword light once again chopped over. At the same time it was mixed with several fire blades. Ning Cheng's attack method was very simple. Other than using the flying sword to attack, only the fire blades posed a threat to him. He had a flash of inspiration when he twisted his body to avoid it, but it was not yet fully formed. In order to kill Ning Cheng as soon as possible, Sanpai consumed too much of his Qi. At this moment he knew that Ning Cheng's sword light was coming, but he could only forcibly avoid his vital organs. Ning Cheng's sword light chopped over Sanpai's shoulder. Sanpai, who had avoided his vital organs, was directly torn apart by Ning Cheng's fire blades. Miao Wenhong, who was standing at the side in a daze, saw Sanpai killed. He knew that the fight was already over. The one who was killed was not Ning Cheng, but Sanpai. You actually killed Sanpai. Miao Wenhong still could not believe it as he looked at Ning Cheng. Sanpai had told him that Ning Cheng was only at the Qi gathering 4th level. How could a Qi gathering 4th level kill a Qi gathering 6th level cultivator? Moreover, Sanpai displayed his unique skill, ice and fire dual blades. Ning Cheng could feel that his Qi was recovering very quickly. He did not want to be long-winded with Miao Wenhong. After killing Miao Wenhong, he had to escape to the Mingot Sea. Staying in this place would only be courting death. You better pray for yourself, Ning Cheng said as he chopped out with the flying sword in his hands. Miao Wenhong opened his mouth. He did not even have the time to beg for mercy, as he was directly split apart by Ning Cheng's sword light. Before he died, he still could not believe that in the Mingat Sea, there was really someone who dared to kill him. Ning Cheng very skillfully burned the two corpses, put away the things of the two people, and said to an E, let's quickly ride these two unicorns and go far away. Big brother Ning, where are we going now? An E and Ning Cheng had been together for some time. She knew that Ning Cheng was extremely opinionated. She did not find it strange that Ning Cheng killed Miao Wenhong and his servant. Going out to sea, didn't someone tell us to take a boat before? Since there is a boat, there will definitely be a second one. Ning Cheng said with certainty. When he killed Miao Wenhong and his servant, he had already thought that since there was a boat going out to sea, there would definitely be a second boat going out to sea. The Mingat Sea was boundless, and there were many people who came here. It was absolutely not something that could be satisfied with just one or two boats. An E hummed and hesitated for a moment before asking with some doubts. Big brother Ning, I heard from my master that anyone who cultivates needs to cultivate a main attribute. This also requires a main spiritual root. Even if one does not have a main spiritual root, they must find a suitable support spiritual root as their main attribute. Ning Cheng did not wait for an E to finish. He understood the meaning of an Yi's words and immediately asked, An E, you want to ask that San Pai, why was he able to simultaneously use the ice and fire attribute cultivation method, right? Ning Cheng was not a person who was ignorant. He had cultivated to the Qi gathering 4th level, and in terms of cultivation, he also understood some of the principles. Fireball technique, waterball technique, and so on. These were the most basic magic techniques. Any spiritual root could use them. But their achievements were limited and could not be used in combat. Before, when San Pai used the ice and fire dual blades, it was already an extremely powerful magic technique. This was not something that could be simply explained by using basic magic techniques. Yes, I have been wondering how that San Pai was able to simultaneously use two different blade lights. If it was me, I really do not know how to resist it. Could it be that San Pai has two main attribute spiritual roots? Dual cultivation method? Then E nodded. Ning Cheng smiled and said, You may not know about it now, but when your cultivation is high enough, you will know about it. If San Pai had two main attribute spiritual roots, and was also able to dual cultivate, then the one who died today would not be him. When he used the ice and fire dual blades, he used a talisman. It should be an auxiliary talisman. Chapter 31. Ning Cheng and an E had never ridden a roaring horned stone beast before. Riding on a roaring horned stone beast, their speed did not increase by much. An E, come down quickly, we can run by ourselves. Ning Cheng felt that there was some vibration on the ground. This was definitely a large number of roaring horned beasts running. It was obvious that someone was chasing them. And E also felt the slight vibration on the ground. She did not need Ning Cheng to call out. The two of them left the roaring horned beasts and frantically ran along the edge of the Mingat Sea. The vibration under their feet was getting bigger and bigger. Ning Cheng's heart was incomparably anxious. He and an E had been looking for a long time, but still could not find the boat. If they could not find the boat, then the two of them would absolutely not be able to escape. After a few dozen breaths, Ning Cheng could even see a large dark mass behind him. Suddenly his heart turned cold. This time they really could not escape. What was the origin of this Miao Wenhong? How could there be so many people chasing him? Big brother Ning, there is a boat. Ning Cheng was concerned about the pursuers behind him, while an E saw a boat on the beach. It really is a boat, hurry up. Ning Cheng immediately called out to an E. The two of them jumped up and down and landed on the boat. When Ning Cheng got on the boat, he called out to the boatman to start the boat. Even if he did not start the boat, he would force the other party to start the boat. This was a matter of life and death. It would not be easy to talk to them. Moreover, Ning Cheng also knew that most of these boats were used by adventurers. To put it bluntly, adventurers were people who could not cultivate. They were completely different from cultivators. But Ning Cheng immediately swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue. The boat was not small, but he did not see a single person. The whole boat was quiet. There was no sound. A faint bloody smell and some damp and gloomy atmosphere came from the cabin, making Ning Cheng frown. There is no one inside the boat. And Yi also felt it, and somewhat nervously moved closer to Ning Cheng. That's not right. Ning Cheng suddenly said he had just seen a large dark mass of pursuers. Even if Miao Wenhong's status was extremely high, it was impossible for people to catch up so quickly, moreover it was a large group. Ning Cheng subconsciously looked back, but found that the boat that he and an Yi were standing on had already left the edge of the sea. He could not even see where the edge of the sea was, and what direction it was. Where were the pursuers? Apart from the darkening sky and the boundless sea, nothing else could be seen. A cold and gloomy gust of wind hit him. Ning Cheng felt his whole body turn cold, and subconsciously shivered. The mysterious yellow bead in his zifu, in just a twinkling of an eye, immediately sent out an aura, which swept away the cold and gloomy gust of wind. An Yi, where are you going? Ning Cheng stepped forward and pulled an Yi back. When he turned around, he saw that an Yi had already approached the cabin, and was even about to enter the cabin. As long as he was a breath later, an Yi would have already entered the cabin. Ning Cheng had just grabbed an Yi's wrist, when he felt the same cold and strange aura. Feeling this cold and strange aura, the mysterious yellow bead once again exuded a soft aura, dispelling this strange cold aura without a trace. An Yi recovered, and somewhat blankly looked at Ning Cheng and asked, "Big brother Ning, what happened to me?" Ning Cheng waved his hand, but did not let go of an Yi. He just stared at the dark cabin and said, "There is something wrong with this ship." An Yi was about to say that they should change to another ship, but she immediately understood that she and Ning Cheng could not change ships. They were already in the sea. Moreover, the ship was not controlled by anyone, and its speed was not slow at all. "I don't care if you are a ghost cultivator or something else. Me and my cousin will stay on the deck for a while. We are not related to each other. If you dare to plot against me again, I will immediately burn this ship." Ning Cheng stood outside the cabin and said a few words, but he did not go in. Ning Cheng knew about ghost cultivators. He had this concept in his memory. Ning Cheng believed that with his cultivation level, if the opposite party was just a ghost, he would not be afraid. Ning Cheng had just finished speaking these words, when he heard a gloomy laughter coming from inside the cabin. This jiejiang laughter was very strange, making Ning Cheng unable to pinpoint the specific direction of the sound. Ning Cheng subconsciously pulled an Yi back a few steps. His courage had always been big, and now he was a cultivator in the middle stages of the qi gathering realm. Even so, this jiejiech sound made his scalp go numb. Almost at the same time as Ning Cheng retreated, Ning Cheng's mind subconsciously thought of two shadows in the shape of ice arrows. He immediately pulled an Yi to the side to dodge. Two solid objects quickly passed through his face. Fortunately, he was aware of it early, otherwise his head would have been directly pierced by these things. Such a terrible attack. If not for the trajectory of the invisible ice arrows that appeared in his mind, he would have been hit by the arrows. Ning Cheng was never a person who was easy to talk to. Even if he knew that these shadowless arrows were very terrible, he would not let them hit him and not fight back. Not waiting for the next shadowless arrows to arrive, Ning Cheng raised his hands and shot out several fireballs. These fireballs, without exception, were thrown into the cabin. At this time his life was in danger. Why would he care about the cabin being burned? A moment ago, when the shadowless arrows were shot from the cabin, an Yi was also aware of it. If Ning Cheng had not pulled her, she certainly would not have been able to avoid it. Now seeing Ning Cheng constantly throwing fireballs into the cabin, she also did not hesitate to bring out several fireballs and throw them into the cabin. This ship was originally made of wood. Ning Cheng and Yi kept on throwing fireballs. These fireballs were not ordinary fire. The inside of the ship was damp, it would burn. For a time, the inside of the cabin was filled with smoke, and the fire also rose up. Ning Cheng did not stop. He once again brought out a fireball. He wanted to burn the roof of the cabin. Just at this moment, a cold snort rang out. "Stop. Hurry up and extinguish the fire. Otherwise, everyone will die." Ning Cheng heard the voice coming from inside the cabin, and threw the fireballs even more vigorously. He was never a person who could be threatened, whether it was a ghost or a ghost cultivator. Since they had plotted against him, then they could not blame him for being impolite. Before he said that he wanted to stay on the deck, because he did not want to cause trouble, but now things had come to his head. Everyone will die? I'm afraid that's not necessarily the case, right? We can find a piece of the deck to survive. You are a ghost or a ghost cultivator, you will die, do not associate us with you. While speaking, Ning Qing once again threw out several fireballs. This time even the roof of the cabin was on fire. Well, this time I was wrong. I am not a ghost, nor a ghost cultivator. If you put out the fire, I am willing to give you some compensation. The voice from the cabin was somewhat helpless, and could only compromise with Ning Cheng. What compensation? Ning Cheng was not moved by this kind of empty promise. If he had some fear before, now he really was not afraid. Ghost cultivators and ghosts, he had not seen them before, so he did not know what was going on. For things that he had not seen before, people would always have some fear and unconsciously worry. Since the other party was not one, what was there for him to be afraid of? I am very familiar with this sea, I can help you advance to the late stages of the Qi gathering realm. Otherwise you are just a small cultivator at the Qi gathering 4th level, you would only be sending food to others. I am afraid that you will stab me in the back. Ning Cheng said slowly. He did not make any requests, nor did he stop. Bang! A piece of wood fell from the top of the cabin because of the flames, and hit the ship, making a muffled sound. I swear, if I, Fang Yijian, ever plot against you again, my soul will fly away and scatter, and I will never have the opportunity to rise again. The voice from the cabin seemed to know that Ning Cheng was not easy to get along with, and did not dare to make a false oath. Are you called Fang Yijian? Ning Cheng stopped releasing fireballs. The voice from the cabin eagerly said, Can you first put out the fire on the ship, and then ask my name? The fire inside the cabin had just started burning and had not yet formed its might. After Ning Cheng threw out several water balls, the flames were immediately suppressed, but soon they started again. When Ning Cheng saw this, he directly raised his hand and brought up the seawater under the ship and blasted it on top of the flames, and he also came to help. The two of them in a short time extinguished the flames. Not bad, a trivial Qi gathering 4th level, but unexpectedly has such a vigorous Qi. No wonder you can escape my shadowless arrow. The voice from the cabin said with some surprise. Ning Cheng disdainfully said, I am only at the Qi gathering realm. When I reach the essence building realm, to deal with a ghost like you, I can just use my flying sword to make a turn. Well, the people here are too stupid. Who told you that you cannot control a flying sword when you are at the Qi gathering realm? When you gather Qi, you will have a spiritual sense. When your spiritual sense is strong, you can also control a flying sword. After the voice from the cabin heard Ning Cheng's words, it coldly snorted with disdain. After this cold snort, it seemed that Ning Cheng was not happy with calling him a ghost, and once again added a sentence. Don't call me a ghost. My name is Fang Yijian. I am not a ghost, but an essence spirit. For you to be able to survive, it can be considered as a skill. Come in, let's talk. Essence spirit? I thought you were a ghost. It seems that the large group of people who were chasing me on the shore were really Miao Wenhong's backer. Ning Cheng sighed. He did not think that the people from the Mingot City's Wolf Palace would react so quickly. In such a short time they were able to form a team and chase him. The self-proclaimed essence spirit Fang Yi snorted and said, You are wrong again. That team of running hooves is the real soul soldier. Chapter 32. Soul Weapon? Ning Cheng froze for a moment. The meaning of a soul weapon was obviously a lifeless soul. But that valiant hoof sound, how could it be a soul weapon? Besides, was there really a soul weapon? Seeing Ning Cheng in a daze, Fang Jian's voice came again. This is nothing strange. For many years, the Mingot Sea area has lost many cultivators. The souls of cultivators are incomparably strong, and many of them even have an embryonic form of an essence spirit. Forming a soul weapon is nothing strange. Although a soul weapon looks terrible, but with your cultivation level and alertness, it is not worth mentioning. Ning Cheng saw it clearly. Fang Jian's voice came from a relatively intact log on the hull of the ship. He understood where Fang Jian was hiding, and his heart slightly relaxed. He walked into the cabin with an "E." You are hiding on this log. Is there something special about this log? Ning Cheng knew that Fang Jian's essence spirit was hiding on the log. He immediately knew that this log was definitely not simple. Otherwise Fang Jian would have already left. Even if he burned the ship, Fang Jian would not care. There is nothing special, I like this ship, I am used to this ship, Fang Jian said as if nothing had happened. Ning Cheng looked around and found that there were several logs of the same material. He immediately said, so it is like this, I know this log, it can be used to make chairs, there are a few of them on the ship, I will dig them out and take them away. I certainly will not casually dismantle the ship, you can rest assured. Seeing that Ning Cheng was really ready to dismantle the rest of the soul wood, Fang Jian's voice was somewhat panicked. Don't dismantle it, I will tell you, this is a soul wood, each soul wood has an inch of soul wood core, I have to rely on this soul wood core to survive. If you dismantle this soul wood, I will be finished. This is a soul wood? Ning Cheng was overjoyed. He had read about this soul wood in the book that an E had given him. In fact, the soul wood that people usually talked about was the soul wood core. Each soul wood core was only useful for less than an inch of soul wood core. In this place, including the place where Fang Yijian was hiding, there were 4 of them. Even if he left one for Fang Yijian, he would still be able to get the other 3. Of course, he wouldn't take away all 3 logs. He only needed to dig out the wood heart of the soul-nurturing wood. Seeing Ning Cheng's shining eyes, Fang Jian thought that this was not good. This was a greedy guy. He quickly said, those shipbuilders had eyes but failed to see. They even cut down the soul-nourishing wood to build the ship. If not for me, this was simply a reckless waste of natural resources. By the way, may I know your name? How could Ning Cheng not know the meaning of Fang Jian's words? Fang Jijian was reminding him that he was the one who found these soul wood, so it was his thing. But Ning Cheng directly ignored the meaning of this Fang sword. He and this Fang sword did not have any friendship. Moreover, he was almost killed by this guy a moment ago, so why would he be polite? Then he smiled and spoke, my name is Ning Cheng. It seems like we are fated to meet each other today. I think you're quite pleasing to the eye, so I've decided to leave you 1 inch of this soul-nurturing wood. I'll take the other 3 inches. Elder brother Ning, you can't do this. Fang Jian saw that Ning Cheng wanted to dig out the remaining 3 inches of the soul-nurturing wood, and was immediately shocked. He was staying here because of the soul-nurturing wood. Without the soul-nurturing wood, he was finished, and there was no meaning in staying here. Ning Cheng's face turned cold and said, Elder brother Fang, people say that the road to the sky, each of us walk halfway. Once you go astray, you share the wealth and I share it. Now that I have accidentally gone astray, do you intend to ignore the rules and do not want to share it with me? Fang Jian had lived for countless years, but he could not remember where he had heard such a sentence. What was this about ignoring the rules? This was simply robbery. That's not what I meant. What I mean is that I have an essence spirit body, and you have a corporeal body. Once you take away the soul-nurturing wood, it would be a disaster for me. If elder brother Ning was in my position, then presumably you would also think the same as me. Fang Jian said while holding back his anger, without the soul-nurturing wood, what was the use of him staying here? If he had known earlier, then he would not have done business with this kid. Originally he thought that he would have 2 pure souls of cultivators, but he did not think that he would be the one looking for trouble. Contrary to what Fang Jian expected, Ning Cheng actually nodded and said, Elder brother Fang's words are extremely true. Thank you elder brother Fang for reminding me. If a person does not think about the future, then he will have to worry about the present. Today I have dug out the soul-nurturing wood, maybe I will be able to use it in the future, thank you. Fang Jian wanted to cry but had no tears. He wanted to persuade Ning Cheng not to dig, but he did not think that it would have the opposite effect. When he saw Ning Cheng take out a flying sword, and just turn it around on the soul-nurturing wood, it brought out a black soul-nurturing wood core. His heart was almost bleeding. Ning Cheng did not stop, and continued to dig out the second soul-nurturing wood core. Seeing that Ning Cheng wanted to dig out the third soul-nurturing wood core, Fang Jian could not help but say, Elder brother Ning, please stop. Elder brother Ning has just reached the Qi gathering 4th level. Presumably there are many things that you do not understand. If elder brother Ning is willing to leave behind this soul-nurturing wood core, then I will be willing to teach you any questions you have. I do not dare to say anything else, but I can guarantee that elder brother Ning will be able to reach the Qi gathering realm in the shortest time possible. Listening to Fang Jian's words, Ning Cheng stopped his actions and said, Elder brother Fang, since you said it like that, I really have a few questions to ask you. This soul-nurturing wood as a reward. If he had teeth, then at this time Fang Jiani would have already gnashed his teeth. This soul-nurturing wood is obviously mine, okay? Even so, he could only smile and said, Elder Brother Ning, please ask, this Fang will definitely tell you everything that I know. That's right, Elder Brother Fang, I heard that the essence spirit can be seized. Will you be able to seize my body? Ning Cheng pulled an E to sit down, and suddenly asked an irrelevant question. Elder Brother Ning must be joking. How can I seize Elder Brother Ning's body? Fang Jiani said with an apologetic smile, but in his heart he was cursing. Cultivating to this age, and only at the trivial qi gathering 4th level, without even looking, he knew that his spiritual roots were garbage. Only an idiot would be willing to seize your body. Ning Cheng cautiously nodded and said, then I can rest assured. I heard others say that only after cultivating to the essence-building realm can one's spiritual sense be transformed into spiritual consciousness, only then can one release it. At the true condensation realm, there is a way to use spiritual sense to control an artifact. Just now Elder Brother Fang said that Qi-gathering realm cultivators can release their spiritual sense? Speaking about cultivation, Fang Jiani's tone immediately became disdainful. The person who said this is just an idiot. A real Qi-gathering realm cultivator can release their spiritual sense, but because of the lack of cultivation method and spiritual Qi, they are limited. Even so, a Qi-gathering realm cultivator can control an artifact to attack the enemy. In the Le Continent, it is very common for a Qi-gathering realm cultivator to use a flying sword to attack the enemy. What is going on? Ning Cheng quickly asked. Fang Jiani also did not hide it. The Le Continent is rich in spiritual qi, moreover there are many academies. The level of the cultivation methods is obviously not something that a trivial low-class continent can compare to. In fact, in the intermediate-class continents, there are many qi-gathering cultivators who can use their spiritual sense to control a flying sword. The low-class continents are deficient in spiritual qi. In order to speed up the cultivation speed, some of the cultivation methods weaken the role of spiritual sense, which leads to the fact that only true condensation realm cultivators can use an artifact, and essence-building realm cultivators can release their spiritual sense. So it is actually a simplified version of the cultivation method. Ning Cheng suddenly understood, so to speak, his cultivation method should have been modified by the mysterious yellow bead, and should be the complete version. At that time, he would try to see if he could control a flying sword. You brought the boat to the seaside, was it because you wanted to fish? Deceive people to board the boat? Moreover, what about the original people on the boat? Ning Cheng thought about the experience he had when he boarded the boat, and in his heart he already had some understanding. Fang Jiani did not understand what fishing was. After listening to Ning Cheng's words, he finally understood and immediately replied, "That's right. I was indeed fishing. I have an essence spirit body, in addition to the soul-nourishing wood. Because of the cultivation method that I practice, I also have to swallow some souls in order to grow stronger. This boat originally had some problems, and it just so happened that those souls were used up by me." Ning Cheng sneered in his heart. If there were some problems, then it was definitely this Fang Jiani who killed them. You can find a few cultivation methods for me. I want a high-level one. I was deceived by you to board the boat. You should at least show some kind of appreciation, right? Ning Cheng was sure that this Fang Jiani's origin was not ordinary. Maybe he had a lot of good things on him. When Fang Jiani heard Ning Cheng ask him about a cultivation method, he quickly waved his hands and said, "I really do not have any cultivation method. I am just an essence spirit body." "Really?" Ning Cheng asked with a smile. Fang Jiani suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. In his heart he regretted bringing Ning Cheng up. This was the first time that he had met a Qi-gathering 4th level cultivator that his invisible arrow could not kill. "You don't have any, but I have a way to help you get it, so I want to make a deal with you. Not far from here, there is a flood dragon island. You can help me spread the news in the Mingot city that there is a large number of low-leveled sea spirit objects on the flood dragon island. When the time comes, I will give you a map. As long as you help me with this, I will definitely help you get a cultivation method." After Fang Jiani finished, he felt that his words were a little lacking in confidence. Ning Cheng immediately understood Fang Jiani's idea. the Flood Dragon Island had a large number of low-leveled sea spirit objects, it would certainly attract a lot of adventurers. Moreover, it would also attract a lot of low-leveled cultivators. This Fang Jianyi wanted to hide in the Flood Dragon Island to harm people, and then slowly devour the spirit objects. Ning Cheng said with an expressionless face, "Then I am really sorry, I just offended the Wolf Palace and the Hohai village in the Mingot City. If you want me to go to the Mingot City now, wouldn't that be sending me to my death?" After Fang Jianyi heard this, he cursed in his heart. This kid really was not a good thing. He was just a trivial chi-gathering 4th-level cultivator, yet he was causing trouble everywhere, and even offended 2 of the major forces in the Mingot City. He had devoured a lot of spirits. Of course he understood what Ning Qing meant by the Wolf Palace and the Hohai village. "It looks like you really don't want to give me the cultivation method. That's really a pity. I can't trouble you again. There is a small boat on it. I and my cousin will take this boat." Ning Qing slowly stood up. "Don't worry, I will think of a way." Fang Jianyi heard that Ning Qing was going to leave and immediately panicked. He and Ning Qing had not been together for a long time, but he felt that Ning Qing was an extremely shameless person. If he did not satisfy Ning Qing, then maybe Ning Qing would just step off the boat, and behind him, there would be countless fireballs thrown onto the boat. Chapter 33. A burst of rustling sound came, and a few jade pieces were thrown out. How come these are jade pieces? Ning Qing did not understand, so when he saw the jade pieces, he felt strange. "I heard Master say, when you cultivate to the level of spiritual consciousness, you can engrave some things on the jade pieces. Using spiritual consciousness to engrave things is many times more than using parchment to write. But you need to have spiritual consciousness to see these things, otherwise you will not be able to see them." An E whispered in Ning Cheng's ear. Fang Jian said with a somewhat contemptuous voice, "What this little girl said is right. The contents of the jade pieces are much more than the books that you have seen before. You do not know how many times more." Ning Qing knew that he had made a mistake. He quickly put away the jade pieces and asked, "Is there anything else?" "The jade pieces that I just gave you are all top-level cultivation methods. You can't even cultivate them all by yourself. What else do you want?" Fang Jian said with some annoyance. "For example, the array formations. If you don't give it to me, then forget it." Ning Cheng said as if nothing had happened. "Here you go. This is the array formations jade piece. Inside it are the basics of array formations." Fang Jian sneered in his heart. "With your qualifications, you still want to learn array formations? But, for example, there are some spiritual grass jade pieces. If you don't give it to me, I will not force you. Here you go." "Yes, I think that if you have 1 or 2 powerful spells, when you fight with others, you will have a lot of advantages. Of course, I was just casually talking about it. Here you go." Fang Jian resisted the anger in his heart. If he gave these things to Ning Qing, it would simply be like a turtle eating barley. It would be a waste of food. "Thank you, Brother Fang. You've really helped me a lot. This time when I was in Mingot City, I saw that there were pills for sale. My heart was filled with envy. If I could refine pills, then in the future I would be able to save a lot of spirit stones." Ning Cheng did not hesitate to put away all the jade pieces. He was still sighing. Fang Jian's disdainful voice came. "You want to refine pills? Do you know how difficult it is to refine pills? Do you know that a sect, or even a family, would find it very difficult to cultivate an ordinary pill master? You are a rogue cultivator. Even if you have some opportunities, I advise you to dispel this idea." Ning Qing disapprovingly said, "At the end of the month in the Mingot City, there will be an auction for pills. Aren't those pills refined by humans? If others can learn, why can't I?" Fang Jian sneered and said, "How can that be called a pill? It couldn't even be considered as the lowest level mortal grade pill. It can only be considered a pill. There are pills too?" Ning Qing immediately asked. He did not understand anything about these things, but now that he had the opportunity to ask, he would not be polite. Fang Jian did not hold back and directly said, "These people have limited spiritual sense and do not have any alchemy inheritance, so they are simply unable to perform alchemy and can only purify the medicinal liquid." The so-called medicinal liquid referred to the simple purification of some spirit herbs. and then mixed with each other according to a certain ratio. Pills and medicinal liquids share the same principle. They aren't refined by a pill furnace, but rather solidified medicinal liquids. Ning Cheng was speechless. He had never thought that alchemy would be this difficult. He had heard about high-level pills, but it turned out to be some inferior pills. This was simply too shameless. Seeing Ning Cheng speechless, Fang Jian once again spoke up, "Even if it is me, I also do not know how to refine pills. I also do not have any alchemy jade strips." Ning Cheng could see that Fang Jian really did not have any alchemy jade strips, and spoke in a somewhat depressed manner. "Since that is the case, then forget it. I will be leaving this place. Goodbye." Fang Jian was very anxious for Ning Cheng to leave, but he was afraid that after Ning Cheng left he would use a fireball to burn the ship, so he reluctantly said, "This ship is very big, you can also stay here." Ning Cheng spoke in a neither fast nor slow manner, "Elder brother Fang, the two of us have different daos, so we cannot work together. This ship of yours is used to kill people and refine their souls. I don't have anything in common with you. I'm a kind person. How can I be with a primordial spirit like you?" Saying that, Ning Cheng did not speak much and directly pushed the boat into the sea and jumped onto the boat with an E. In the blink of an eye, the small boat disappeared from the side of the big ship and entered the vast sea. When Fang Jian saw that Ning Cheng did not use a fireball to attack the big ship, he breathed a sigh of relief and at the same time cursed, "Fart, people with different daos cannot work together. You little bastard, why didn't you say that before you took my jade strips? You took away all of my things, and then said such shameless words." "Big brother Ning, I think what you said is right, although that Fang Jian is a senior, but he casually killed innocent people. This should not be done." An E who was standing on the boat was full of admiration for Ning Cheng's decision. She felt that she really knew Ning Cheng now. Ning Cheng awkwardly installed the oars on the boat and said, "Actually, I am not that noble. This world was a place where the strong were respected." Ning Cheng was not that noble and would casually blame Fang Jian for killing people. The reason why he left the big ship was because he did not dare to stay there. Fang Jian had spiritual consciousness and also had the shadowless arrow, staying with this kind of person unless he was tired of living. Fang Jian was afraid of him burning the ship, and he was equally afraid of Fang Jian. If he could kill Fang Jian, maybe he would have killed that guy. There was a big ship who would use a small ship. Moreover, Ning Cheng knew, as for burning the ship, this kind of thing that would harm others without benefiting himself, Ning Cheng was not a retard, of course he would not do it. And he did not know about Ning Cheng's twisted intestines, and still looked at Ning Cheng with a respectful look and said, "Big brother Ning, fortunately I met you. If not for you, I would have stayed in the Blue Heart Nunnery. I think I would not have a good time. Or, as my master said, he will be harmed in the end." Ning Cheng did not refute Yi's words, but nodded and said, "Before I did not understand array formations, I thought that the Blue Heart Nunnery was a safe place, but now I know it is not safe. The array formations of the Blue Heart Nunnery were at best a level 1 array formation. Dealing with a rookie like Ning Cheng would certainly not be a problem. As long as he was a little proficient in array formations, he would be able to crack it." "Big brother Ning, where are we going now?" At this time in the boat with Ning Cheng, Yi did not think much about it. "We will first look for an island, and on one side we can gain experience, while on the other we can cultivate. After a period of time, when the wind is much weaker, we will go ashore. Anyway, we brought enough things, we are not afraid of starving to death." Ning Cheng dared to get off the boat was because he had a storage bag. Moreover, the storage bag had his own food and water reserves. At the same time, Ning Cheng began to check his spoils of war, and Yi saw that Ning Cheng had something to do, and simply went to row the boat. Miao Wenhong and San Pai did not have a storage bag. Their things were also limited. The best thing they had was San Pai's low-grade artifact. Miao Wenhong guessed that San Pai's equipment would be good for him, so he gave the low-grade artifact to San Pai. As for Miao Wenhong's items, in addition to some gold coins, there were only some obscene drugs and the like. Ning Cheng despised this young Master Wenhong. This kid could cultivate to the Qi-gathering 3rd level. Presumably his spiritual roots were better than his own. But this kid spent all his time and energy on women's bellies. Even the things that he brought with him were not good. Throwing these things into the storage bag, Ning Cheng continued to study the basic array formations that an E had given him. As for the jade strips that he got from Fang Jian, Ning Cheng did not touch them. His current spiritual sense was still weak. These jade strips could be studied when he had free time. Once Ning Cheng started to study the basic array formations, he once again entered into the state of enlightenment. An and Ning Cheng had been together for a long time. She was already accustomed to Ning Cheng's abnormal way of studying. She did not disturb Ning Cheng. While she was controlling the boat, from time to time she would put some food and water beside Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng was completely immersed in the state. In his mind emerged a three-dimensional picture of the array formations. The positions of the basic array formations were constantly evolving in his mind, while at the same time he was constantly changing and modifying them. 5 days flashed by. When Ning Cheng turned the last page, he found that he had unexpectedly finished reading the book on the basics of array formations. I have read this book for several years, but I only know a little about it. I did not think that you would be able to finish reading it in less than half a month. An saw Ning Cheng turn the last page, and quietly said a few words from the side. She was a quiet person, although in these 10 days, Ning Cheng had not spoken to her, but she did not feel lonely. Ning Cheng gave an apologetic look, and was about to speak, when a huge wave rushed over, and through the boat that he and an were on. The next moment, the sky turned gloomy, lightning flashed, followed by the sound of thunder, and dense raindrops the size of soybeans poured down. Chapter 34. Ning Cheng was just about to arrange a rain barrier array formation when a wave of water burst out in front of the boat, and 2 rows of white teeth bit towards Ning Cheng. This time An Yi's reaction was unexpectedly faster than Ning Cheng's. A wind edge flew past, and the white teeth of the sea beast was directly cut into the sea by An Yi. Ning Cheng looked at An Yi with surprise. In his opinion, An Yi was always half a beat slower. How could her reaction be so fast? Although this sea beast was not worth mentioning, even an ordinary qi-gathering first-level cultivator could easily deal with it, but An Yi's reaction speed made Ning Cheng look at her with a whole new level of respect. Seeing Ning Cheng looking at her with some surprise, An Yi shyly said, "These past few days there have been all kinds of low-level sea beasts attacking our boat. I was always ready." So, Ning Cheng suddenly understood he was already immersed in the study of array formations, in order to not let these low-level sea beasts disturb him, so she took the initiative to drive away the sea beasts. Although these sea beasts were low-level, but they were the favorite of the adventurers. These sea beasts had many valuable things on their bodies. A sea beast could be sold for more than 10 gold coins. Ning Cheng did not care about the gold coins. Even if it was the qi-gathering stones, he did not care much about it. What he cared about was the spirit stones. He needed a lot of spiritual qi for his cultivation. Ordinary qi-gathering stones were simply useless. Another huge wave came crashing over. Ning Cheng did not have time to say thank you words. He quickly forcibly controlled the boat. When Ning Cheng was ready to arrange an array formation, he found that he did not even have a single array flag. Moreover, he simply did not know how to refine array flags. At this time, for him, all the array formations and array flags were just theoretical things, and had not yet become a reality. The rain was getting heavier, and the waves were getting bigger and bigger. Ning Cheng and An Yi at this time had no way to take shelter from the rain. The two of them had to work hard to control the boat, at least not let the boat capsize. Although Ning Cheng and An Yi were both at the qi-gathering 4th level, the heavy rain did not seem to stop. The two of them controlled the boat for a whole day, but the rain was getting heavier and heavier. Another few feet high wave came crashing down, the boat under the control of Ning Cheng and An Yi, although it was not overturned, but it broke into pieces. A small wooden boat, under such strong winds and huge waves, being able to persist for a whole day, was already considered good. The wooden boat broke apart, and Ning Cheng and An Yi fell directly into the sea. Ning Cheng first grabbed a piece of wood, but when he looked back, he saw that An Yi was only wearing a piece of robe. Ning Cheng panicked. He did not care about the wooden plank. He directly gathered his qi and rushed over, and grabbed An Yi into his bosom. An Yi was a cultivator at the qi-gathering 4th level, but because she did not have any experience in the sea, after fighting against these strong winds and huge waves for a whole day, she was already exhausted. What's more, before this she had been continuously taking care of Ning Cheng for nearly a week. Now that the wooden boat was broken, not to mention that she didn't know how to swim, even if she could, she wouldn't be able to hold on. Fortunately, Ning Cheng reacted quickly and caught an E in his hands, otherwise, an E would have already been taken away by the huge waves. An E was sent out of the water by Ning Cheng. She spat out a few mouthfuls of salty water and said, "Big brother Ning, are we going to die?" Ning Cheng held an E in his arms as he treaded on the water. His heart was also somewhat sad. If he still had a piece of wood, maybe he would be able to deal with it for a while, but now that he did not have a piece of wood, even if he was more powerful, he would not be able to persist for a long time. "Big brother Ning, do you think that if we die, will we turn into those kinds of soul soldiers, and come and go every day in the sea?" An E at this time unexpectedly thought of those kinds of soul soldiers. Ning Cheng quickly said, "Don't think about it, we will not necessarily die. As long as the wind and waves stop, maybe we can be saved. Alas, if we could fly on a flying sword, then we would not be afraid of these waves." He had not even finished his words when another huge wave came crashing down, directly beating down Ning Cheng's words. After the huge wave passed, Annie suddenly raised her hand to help Ning Cheng smooth his hair. "Big brother Ning, I really want you to let me go, but I am really afraid of being alone. I am not afraid of death, I am afraid of becoming a soul soldier." Ning Cheng reluctantly lifted an E up and said, "Don't talk nonsense, how can I let you go? If I have to die, then I will definitely die. If I let you go it would be the same. If the two of us were together, then we would have a companion. I have already died once, it would not matter if I die again, maybe I can still go back." "Big brother Ning, does a girlfriend mean a fiancé?" An E saw that Ning Cheng had not finished his words, and suddenly took the initiative to ask. Originally An E had asked him about his girlfriend, but at that time their conversation was interrupted by two advanced-level cultivators who suddenly flew past them. Ning Cheng did not think that An E would ask about it again. When Ning Cheng had thought of Ning Ruolin, he had also thought of Tian Mu Wan. At this time he did not know whether he would be able to survive or not. When An E asked him, he did not hide anything and directly replied, "A girlfriend is not a fiancé. If you want your girlfriend to become a fiancé, then you have to propose." "Is it because you forgot to propose to your girlfriend, so you and your girlfriend had a conflict?" Ning Cheng sighed and said, "No, she got into another person's car in front of me, although I know that she might have done it intentionally, but with my personality I can't accept it, I think." An Yi's complexion suddenly changed, and even her tone became fierce as she said, "Big brother Ning, this kind of shameless woman? You even mentioned her." Another huge wave came crashing down. Ning Cheng already had some experience in dealing with it, so he brought An E into the water and escaped the huge wave and once again came out. Wiping the water droplets from his face, Ning Cheng said with a bitter smile, "An E, you mentioned it a moment ago, I did not mention her." At the same time, he was also speechless in his heart. He knew that An E had not been to Earth, so it was normal for her to have such thoughts. This and shamelessness were two different things. Ning Cheng also had no way to explain this kind of thing to An E. "I'm sorry, big brother Ning, I should not have mentioned it a moment ago." An E felt Ning Cheng's sadness, and suddenly felt a little uncomfortable in her heart. She had cultivated together with her master, but when she was with Ning Cheng, she felt that she could speak a lot more than when she was with her master. "An E, can you see if these are the sea beasts that attacked us before?" Ning Cheng subconsciously hugged An E, but his heart was cold. A dark mass of sea beasts rushed towards Ning Cheng and An E. Each of the sea beasts had a bloodthirsty look in their eyes, and were baring their shiny white teeth. Apparently they had seen their prey. "It's the kind with the sharp teeth." An E also panicked. She could imagine the two of them would soon be torn to pieces by this dark mass of sea beasts. Not even a single piece of flesh would be left behind. Ning Cheng took out his flying sword, and with a sword light, dozens of sea beasts were directly torn apart by Ning Cheng's sword light. The sea beasts behind them immediately swarmed up, and completely devoured the ones that Ning Cheng had split apart. The waves seemed to be a lot smaller and did not hit them for a long time, But Ning Cheng felt even more difficult. He constantly waved his flying sword, while killing these sea beasts, while holding an E and quickly retreated. But the resistance of the seawater made him unable to display his speed. The desire to survive made Ning Cheng break out with an unprecedented strength. He carried an E while killing and retreating, and unexpectedly persisted for half a day. These sharp-teethed sea beasts were simply too many. He simply could not kill them all. Not only could he not kill them all, but the more he killed, the more there were. Ning Cheng was about to say that he could not hold on any longer, when a reef appeared in front of him. And E also saw the reef. She was just about to speak, when Ning Cheng happily said, "We have arrived at the edge of an island." While speaking, Ning Cheng broke out with his last bit of strength, and with an E he sped up, and finally rushed out of the water, and landed on the reef on the periphery of the island. Then Ning Cheng rushed to the island in a few steps, and then could not bear it any longer, and fell to the ground. "Finally escaped with our lives." Ning Cheng's words came to an abrupt end. He stared at an E who was pressing down on him. To be honest, Ning Cheng had never seen an E as an adult woman, but at this time An Yi's clothes were completely soaked, and she looked more like a woman than any other woman. Ning Cheng's only sigh in his heart, this little nun usually could not be seen. How could her chest be so big? Chapter 35. An E did not realize that she was completely exposed. Instead she hugged Ning Cheng tightly, and even trembled a little. Ning Cheng was about to call out to An E, but he also felt that something was wrong. He and An E were surrounded by a haze. An Yi's snow-white chest was blocked by the haze. It seemed vaguely visible. "There is a soul weapon." An Yi's voice was trembling. She seemed to be extremely afraid of these soul weapons. Ning Cheng had already put aside the issue of An Yi's chest. In an instant he sat up. He did not care about his exhaustion. He grabbed an E and hid behind a rock. A headless man was holding a human head in his hand, slowly moving through the haze with his hunched back. After the man took a few steps, he suddenly took out a bloody palm from the bag behind him, and then stuffed the palm into the mouth of the human head in his hand. The human head that he was holding in his hand unexpectedly began to slowly chew. Ning Cheng felt his scalp tingle. Even when he was on Fang Jian's ship, he did not have this kind of gloomy and terrifying feeling. After the human head chewed on the palm, it suddenly automatically turned its head in another direction. Its two ashen eyes were directly staring at the place where Ning Cheng and An E were hiding. There was even some blood on the corner of its mouth. Ning Cheng felt a chill in his heart. The mysterious yellow bead once again emitted an aura, driving out the cold feeling. Fortunately, the headless man did not seem to know that the human head in his hand was looking at Ning Cheng, and still walked slowly into the haze, slowly disappearing from sight. "Big brother Ning, that soul weapon did not have a head." An Yi's voice trembled. Apparently she had never seen such a strange thing before. Ning Cheng said in a deep voice, "An E, I suspect that it is not a soul weapon. When we came here, this was just an island. Now suddenly there is a lot of fog. It is simply impossible to see anything around us. This is most likely an array formation. Maybe it is an illusion array. That person without a head, perhaps he simply does not exist. It is our own illusion." Although he comforted An E, Ning Cheng's heart was not at all sure. He was not sure whether it was an illusion or not, because the scene just now was too real. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, the fog gradually dissipated. Ning Cheng and An E once again restored the original scene. "I know, this is Lansha Island." Ning Cheng sobered up. He felt that this place was somewhat familiar. The surrounding environment was clearly the same as the map that Taoist Pu had given him. Ning Cheng had an eidetic memory, although he had thrown away the two pictures, but he could still clearly remember the things that were drawn in the array formation map. In the formation drawing of the Lansha Island, this was the scene in front of them. "Then what should we do?" "I heard that the golden cicada fruit has appeared here. When the time comes there will be a lot of people coming here." When An E heard that this was the Lansha Island, she asked with some concern. Ning Cheng immediately said that Taoist Pu wants us to join their team, so he is definitely up to no good. Whether that Taoist Pu came on the 15th of last month or the 15th of this month, our strength is not enough to interfere. There are still a few more days until the 15th of this month. Let's find a safe place to hide first. If there was a boat, Ning Cheng would have immediately left this place. Unfortunately, he didn't have a boat, so he couldn't leave at all. He did not believe that there was a golden cicada fruit here, this kind of thing like the golden cicada fruit. If it really existed, why would Taoist Pooh, a mere chi-gathering third-level ant, come and snatch it? Ning Cheng and Anit did not dare to enter the heart of the island. They walked along the edge of the island for more than an hour, and finally found a huge reef on the edge of the island. Ning Cheng took out the low-grade artifact that he had obtained from San Pai, and found a hidden place in the reef and began to dig a hole. Ning Cheng had the cultivation of chi-gathering 4th level, plus he also had a low-grade artifact. Moreover, he did not cherish this artifact. In just a short period of half a day, Ning Cheng dug a huge reef cave. At this time, An-yi had already changed her clothes and followed Ning Cheng into the newly dug reef cave. The two of them had just entered for a while, when the outside was once again shrouded in fog. This place is really strange. I have to find a way to refine some array flags, and then arrange an array formation to seal this cave. An-yi, you have the spirit stones, you can cultivate by yourself. Ning Cheng saw that the fog outside was getting thicker and thicker, and secretly rejoiced that he had made the right choice. If he was still in the fog, maybe he would have lost his way, and directly entered the heart of the island. An-yi did not have any objection to Ning Cheng's idea. She knew that Ning Cheng needed a lot of spirit stones for his cultivation. Giving these spirit stones to Ning Cheng was simply meaningless. It would be better to cultivate by herself. Once her cultivation was high enough, she would help Ning Cheng find spirit stones for his cultivation. Seeing An-yi start to cultivate, Ning Cheng took out some materials and began to refine array flags. He had never learned how to refine artifacts, but in the array formation basics, there was a simple introduction to refining array flags. After 2 days of fumbling and countless experiments, Ning Cheng was able to refine some rank 1 array flags. Although it was still somewhat rough, but these array flags could already be used to arrange a rank 1 array formation. But Ning Cheng was very dissatisfied. He somewhat regretted that he did not ask Fang Jian for a few jade strips for refining artifacts. At this time he was very clear, refining artifacts and array formations were really closely linked. If he did not learn refining artifacts, he would never be able to become a good array formation master. Thinking that refining artifacts and array formations were closely linked, Ning Cheng sighed. Refining artifacts was definitely not easier than alchemy. The mysterious yellow bead could only help him to correct his cultivation method, but it could not let him quickly master the skills of alchemy and refining artifacts. It seems that even if he mastered more array formation theories, it was still impossible for him to become a powerful array formation master. After arranging a rank 1 concealment array formation in the Immortal Cave, Ning Cheng took out the few jade strips that Fang Jian had given him. Among the 2 jade strips, Ning Cheng could not see even a single word. He did not know if his cultivation was too low, or if the jade strips that Fang Jian had given him were fake. Ning Cheng then took out the 4 cultivation method jade strips. The first one he could not see, the second one he could not see, the third one. Ning Cheng had already determined in his heart that Fang Jian had deceived him, even if he could not clearly see the contents of the jade strips. His cultivation method had already been corrected by the mysterious yellow bead. His spiritual sense was certainly much stronger than the average chi-gathering cultivators. But now he could not even see a single word on the jade strips. If Fang Jian was not deceiving him, then what was it? This idea changed when Ning Cheng picked up the 4th jade strip. The 4th jade strip Ning Cheng was unexpectedly able to use his spiritual sense to scan it. Wishful profound with technique. The beginning of the words was not a problem for Ning Cheng, but the more he read, the more blurred it became. When Ning Cheng saw the words gathering chi into essence, achieving the true condensation realm, he immediately felt a pain in his head and could no longer continue reading. However, with Ning Cheng's abnormal memory, as long as he saw it once, he would not be able to forget it. This was a wood attribute cultivation method. Ning Cheng closed his eyes and carefully thought about this cultivation method once again. He discovered that this cultivation method wasn't much better than the Ning family's cultivation method he had corrected. Ning Cheng himself did not want to cultivate this cultivation method, but he thought of an E. At this time, an E was cultivating. After Ning Cheng listened to Fang Jian's words, he felt that an Yi's cultivation method was also very ordinary. He interrupted the cultivation of an E and asked, "An E, what is your spiritual root? What kind of cultivation technique are you practicing?" After an E finished, she opened her eyes and said, "My main spiritual root is wood, and I cultivate the common wood secret art. My master said that after I reach the true condensation realm, I would need to find a new cultivation method. Common wood secret art, it should be the lowest grade common grade cultivation method. In the cultivation method that Fang Jian gave me, there is a profound wood secret art. I have no use for it. You can cultivate it." Ning Cheng said, and threw the jade piece in his hands to an E. "Profound wood secret art? This should be a profound grade cultivation method. Even my master has not seen this kind of thing. Fang Jian gave it to you. He really is rich." An E took the jade piece and said in amazement. Even if she did not have a flamboyant character, she was somewhat excited to get a profound grade cultivation method. She certainly knew the preciousness of a profound grade cultivation method. Her master said that even if it was a 3-star academy, they would not necessarily have a few profound grade cultivation methods. The lowest grade of the cultivation methods was the common grade, followed by the true grade, and even higher than the true grade was the profound grade. But after the profound grade, there was the earth grade and the heaven grade cultivation methods, which were the stuff of legends. Even within Yi's temperament, when she obtained a profound grade cultivation method, she could not wait to read it with her spiritual sense. Unfortunately, the strength of her spiritual sense was far inferior to Ning Cheng's. She could not even see a single word. Ning Cheng looked at An Yi's expression and knew that An Yi was unable to read the jade piece and simply said, "I will say it to you, you can just write it down." An Yi was not surprised that Ning Cheng could read the contents of the jade piece. After being with Ning Cheng for some time, she was getting more and more accustomed to the things that happened to Ning Cheng. Although An Yi's memory was good, but it was not as abnormal as Ning Cheng's. After Ning Cheng repeated it several times, An Yi completely memorized the profound wood secret arts qi gathering cultivation method. "Big brother Ning, would you like me to change to the profound wood secret art?" After An Yi finished memorizing the profound wood secret arts qi gathering cultivation method, she immediately knew that this cultivation method was many times stronger than her original common wood secret art. Ning Cheng and An Yi were the same. They did not know the dangers of changing a cultivation method. Since it was a good cultivation method, then of course they would have to change it to a good cultivation method. This was nothing unusual. Ning Cheng was about to agree with An Yi's words, when suddenly a refreshing fragrance spread into the reef cave. Ning Cheng sniffed it a few times, and suddenly felt refreshed. He subconsciously stood up and said, "What is this smell?" "It seems to be a familiar smell of spiritual fruit. Wait, I remember. It's the golden cicada fruit." An Yi also stood up. She was the one who gave Ning Cheng the primary level spiritual grass book. Since Ning Cheng knew the smell of the golden cicada fruit from the book, then she obviously also knew about it. "Is there really a golden cicada fruit?" Ning Cheng's tone was somewhat excited. Chapter 36. Is there really a golden cicada fruit? Ning Cheng asked in a somewhat excited tone. He didn't want to go to the middle of Lansha Island, not because he didn't like the golden cicada fruit, but because he knew that it was useless for him to go there. His cultivation was too low, so he would not be able to snatch the golden cicada fruit. Moreover, he also doubted whether the golden cicada fruit really existed. Looking at the people who came out of the Clear Heart Academy, even the worst among them was at the Qi Gathering 6th level. What could he use to snatch the golden cicada fruit from the others? That's not right. An E. Today does not seem to be the 15th of the month. How can there be an aroma of the golden cicada fruit? Did that Taoist Pu lie to us? Ning Cheng immediately remembered that Taoist Pu had said that they could only enter the array on the 15th day of the month. "Big brother Ning?" An E called out to Ning Cheng. She could see from Ning Cheng's eyes what Ning Cheng wanted to do. If he had not smelled the fragrance of the golden cicada fruit, then Ning Cheng would certainly not have moved. In his opinion, even if there was a golden cicada fruit here, It was not something that he could obtain, perhaps he would not even be able to find the golden cicada fruit. But now it was different. He could clearly smell the golden cicada fruit. This meant that as long as he followed this scent, he would be able to find the golden cicada fruit. The question of whether he should go or not was directly ignored by Ning Cheng, cultivating in this place. If the golden cicada fruit was placed in front of him, and he was indifferent, then how could he dare to say that it was an opportunity? What was an opportunity? This was an opportunity. In a place like the Ping continent, the golden cicada fruit was one of the most valuable spiritual fruits, as it could allow a cultivator at the Qi-gathering realm to advance to the true condensation realm. How could he give up on such a thing? If he gave up this time, he might never see it again. What's more, the golden cicada fruit might have ripened and there was no one here, and he just happened to run into it. I decided to look for the golden cicada fruit. You stay here and wait for me. If I do not come back, you will have to wait for the spirit stones to run out, and then find an opportunity to leave the Lansha island. Ning Cheng made up his mind and spoke. What made Ning Cheng surprised was that who had always been obedient to him, directly put away the praying mat on the ground and said, "Big brother Ning, I will go with you. Now that you're gone, I'll be very lonely here. I'm very afraid of those spirit weapons." Ning Cheng grabbed his hair and said, I told you, I have always wanted to go back to my hometown. My hometown is very far away. If my cultivation is low, I won't be able to go back. I don't know how far I need to cultivate before I can go back, but I don't want to give up, so I don't want to let go of any opportunity to advance. I knew that the chance of going back was slim, but no matter how slim it was, I had to try. This time I'm going to look for the golden cicada fruit. I'm definitely going to die, but I can't give up this opportunity. I must go. But you're different. Your hometown is here, so there's no need for you to go with me. Big brother Ning, why must you go back to your hometown? Isn't the Ping continent very good? We can go to another country. Previously in the Mingot city, the person from the Clear Heart Academy had said that the Clear Heart Academy was recruiting students, and that they could go to the Clear Heart Academy. Is it because your girlfriend is in your hometown, so you are worried? Carefully asked. Ning Cheng shook his head. It's not because of her, it's because of my younger sister. I have a sister here, now without me, she must be very worried. Unfortunately, I could not return to her side. So I want to cultivate hard. Maybe one day when my cultivation is high enough, I can go back. Big brother Ning, I will go with you to look for the golden cicada fruit. After listened to Imo's words, she simply said a sentence, and did not use any other reason to explain. Ning Cheng looked at Yi's firm eyes, and knew that persuasion would be useless. So he nodded and said, "Well, you must always follow me. The two of us together, even if we die, we will not be lonely." Since Ning Cheng knew that even if he cultivated to the essence-building realm, he would not be able to go from the Ping continent to the Hua continent, he knew that his hope of going back to Earth was extremely slim. As he said, even if it was slim, he did not want to give up. If he did not give up, then there was still a little chance. If he gave up, then he would not have even half a chance. The heavens had given him a chance, and let him obtain the mysterious yellow bead. The mysterious yellow bead was heaven-defying, but it also required countless spirit stones to support his cultivation, and also required a lot of spiritual grasses. He did not have any relatives or friends here. He could not even join a sect or an academy. If he did not go all out to look for the spiritual objects, then who would help him? Besides, even if he was a disciple of an academy, there was no such thing as an academy, where he could use piles of spirit stones to boost his cultivation. Ning Cheng brought out of the reef cave, and carefully walked in the direction of the golden cicada fruit's fragrance. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the vague fog once again shrouded them, and the distance between Ning Cheng and became indistinct. Ning Cheng grabbed Yi's hand. He knew that once they got lost in this place, then the two of them would never be able to meet again. Pada pada. The sound of footsteps could be heard. Ning Cheng and immediately stopped. The footsteps were getting closer and closer, but what made Ning Cheng horrified was that he could not see anyone's shadow. He could only hear the sound of continuous footsteps. Suddenly, the footsteps stopped. It seemed that they were just a few meters in front of Ning Cheng. An E subconsciously stuck close to Ning Cheng. She was the same as Ning Cheng. She also could not see who the footsteps were from. A cold and gloomy air invaded them. In front of Ning Cheng's eyes suddenly appeared a bright and clear path. Ning Cheng was just about to pull an E onto that path when the mysterious yellow bead in his Zifu once again emitted out an aura. That cold and gloomy feeling that invaded Ning Cheng's body instantly disappeared, and then Ning Cheng heard the pada-pada sound of footsteps getting further and further away. Big brother Ning, I just saw a path, but soon the path disappeared. Was it fake? An E already understood that the path that she and Ning Cheng had just seen was fake. Ning Cheng said in a deep voice, "This Mingatsi area and this Lansha Island are somewhat strange. The previous soul weapons, the headless man, and the footsteps without a shadow. We can't go on like this, you wait." Ning Cheng slightly hesitated for a moment, and then said, "Let's go according to the route map that Taoist Pu gave us. I feel that the route map that he gave us is real." An E nodded, and did not speak again. Ning Cheng recalled the route map that Taoist Pu had given him, and immediately changed his direction. He had already memorized the route map, and now that he knew a thing or two about formations, it only took him a few steps to find a real winding path. When Ning Cheng and an E found this winding trail, although the fog around them was still there, but it was obviously a lot thinner. Not only that, but the fragrance of the golden cicada fruit was getting stronger and stronger. The route map is correct, let's hurry up. Ning Cheng pulled an E tightly, and from time to time turned around on the curved path. Their speed was getting faster and faster, and along the way they did not see any strange things. After an hour, Ning Cheng and an E stopped. There was no more road in front of them. The route map that Taoist Pu had given them was only up to here. There is no more road. Ning Cheng stared at the curved path in front of him, and said with a frown. He also knew that there was indeed an array formation here, but unfortunately, this array formation was too advanced, and he had no way to find the real road. Big brother Ning, the fragrance of the golden cicada fruit seems to be gone. An E suddenly said. Ning Cheng had been carefully paying attention to the road in front of him, and did not notice the fragrance of the golden cicada fruit. At this time when an E said it, he reacted. He did not know when the fragrance of the golden cicada fruit had disappeared, but he did not notice it. An E, you stay close to me, I will go down this road. If something goes wrong, we will immediately come back. Ning Cheng carefully warned an E, and carefully stepped out of the curved path. Boom! Ning Cheng had just stepped out of the path, when he heard a muffled sound in front of him. At this time Ning Cheng's attention was extremely focused. When he heard this muffled sound, he immediately wanted to return to the original path, but when he looked back at the path, he found that the path had disappeared. It was as if it had been taken away out of thin air, and there were only some weeds and stones around him. Ning Cheng felt that something was wrong, when he unexpectedly found that an E had disappeared. All around him was a vague haze. Where was the shadow of an E? Chapter 37. Ning Cheng also did not intend to leave. The golden cicada fruit was right in front of him. He was not the kind of person who would give up out of courtesy. Moreover, Ning Cheng vaguely felt that there was something wrong with this Taoist Pu. The map and the array talismans were all provided by this Taoist Pu, but the things were divided equally. He believed that this Taoist Pu was not a noble person. But now that 8 people were going in together, he could not think what kind of trick Taoist Pu would use to make the other 7 people work for him. Taoist Pu was too lazy to remind this guy about the role of the true ignition array talisman. If not for this array talisman, the path on the array formation map would inexplicably disappear. Fortunately, they were already in front of the wall. Even if they lost the talisman, it should not be a big problem. At this moment, Ning Cheng did not even think about whether this voice was real or not, and directly rushed towards the source of the voice. Then he vaguely saw the frightened and uneasy an E in the haze. An E was not even 2 meters away from him. Taoist Pu took the lead and walked to the unlatched door, and carefully pushed it open. The unlatched door creaked. The sound was not loud, but it was painful as if it had pierced his heart. The few figures came down from the winding path, and walked to the front of the dark red-walled courtyard on the bluestone paved road, when Ning Cheng was able to see them clearly. This time, there were a total of 8 people. Among these 8 people, Ning Cheng unexpectedly knew 4 of them: Taoist Pu, Feng Fei Zhang, Miao Xiaoming and Tian Fei. Taoist Pu did not continue to explain, and just said, "When we enter the courtyard, do not rush inside, listen to my instructions. The 8 of us will each occupy a corner, and together we will break the golden cicada fruit's defensive array formation." And Yi's hand was very cold, but after Ning Cheng grabbed her hand, the mysterious yellow bead's aura automatically expelled the cold from her hand. At this time Ning Cheng had the time to think about why an Yi had suddenly disappeared from his side, and why he was able to find her without any problems. The bluestone path led to the dark red-walled gate, which was unlatched. The fragrance of the golden cicada fruit, which had not appeared for a long time, once again spread out. This time Ning Cheng could feel it very clearly. The fragrance of the golden cicada fruit was drifting out from the inside of the wall. Ning Cheng was startled. He did not even think about it, and directly used a fire edge to chop it down. After a sharp cry, the vague figure disappeared without a trace in Ning Cheng's fireball. Taoist Pu sneered and said, "Xue Sinin, don't blame me for not reminding you. In this place, even if you disappear inexplicably, it is a very normal thing. Between the 8 of us, there is a true ignition array talisman. Otherwise, you might have disappeared the moment you came down." Ning Cheng was just about to speak, when the gate of the walled courtyard once again issued a squeak sound, as Taoist Pu crazily rushed out from the inside. At this time, Taoist Pu's hair was disheveled. Where was the calm appearance he had when he first entered? "Big brother Ning?" A frightened voice came. Ning Cheng immediately knew that this voice belonged to an Yi. In front of him and an Yi, a dark red wall suddenly appeared. This wall seemed to be boundless, and one simply could not see the end of it. As for what was behind the wall, he couldn't see it either. At this time, he and an Yi were standing on a bluestone road in front of the gate. Logically speaking, it was impossible for him to find such a strange disappearance so easily. "Big brother Ning, I always feel that someone is calling me, asking me to enter the red-walled courtyard. If you had not caught me, I am afraid that I would not have been able to bear it." An Yi whispered in Ning Cheng's ear. "This is..." Ning Cheng had just warned an Yi, when he was once again shocked by the scene in front of him. Was this the spiritual sense projection? Ning Cheng had just thought of the projection, when the scene within a meter of him once again disappeared. Taoist Pu nodded and said, "Now there are a lot of people who have obtained the map of the Lansha Island, but they all think that only the 15th can come in. They absolutely do not know that the golden cicada fruit matures on the 10th of the month. Unfortunately, they do not have the true ignition array talisman. Even if they knew, they would also die. Today is the 9th of the month. It is the best time to break the array. When we take away the golden cicada fruit, they should have already arrived." Ning Cheng was suddenly shocked in his heart. If an Yi was lost in this place, how could he find her? It would only be a narrow escape from death. That's right, this is the fragrance of the golden cicada fruit. It really is here, and is surrounded by a walled courtyard. When there was no fragrance, I thought that we had gone the wrong way. A squinting chi-gathering third-level cultivator stepped on the bluestone road, and called out in a pleasantly surprised voice. The next day, Ning Cheng and an Yi did not hear even half a sound. The 8 people who entered the walled courtyard were like mud falling into the sea. There was no sound. Ning Cheng was getting more and more uncertain in his heart. If he continued to stay here and wait, maybe in a few days there would be a lot of people who would come to the island. Moreover, he always had a vague feeling that there seemed to be a pair of eyes staring at him and an Yi in the midst of the fog. Ning Cheng took out a thin rope and tied an Yi's wrist to his wrist and said, "An Yi, you and I walk side by side, so that I can't see you." At this time he forcibly revolved his spiritual sense. He wanted to see if he could see the things around him. The next moment, the scene within a meter of him appeared in his consciousness. This is not right. Ning Cheng's mind at this moment was very clear. He found that he could clearly see the dark red front yard in front of him. He could also clearly see the path in front of him. But the scene around him, as well as the scene behind him, he could not see it clearly. Time passed by as they waited. On the first day, Ning Cheng and an E could only hear bursts of muffled sounds coming from the dark red walls of the courtyard. The muffled sounds were very loud, and the interval between the muffled sounds was very short. As time went on, the muffled sounds became longer and longer, and the sounds were getting smaller and smaller. Brother Shui, I think that Brother Pooh is not trying to remind you of his array formation map, but to remind you not to lose the true ignition array talisman. Feng Feizhong already understood the meaning of Taoist Pooh. Ning Cheng rushed in front of an E, raised his hand and once again grabbed an Yi's hand. What's going on, an E? I clearly grabbed your hand before. How did you end up here? After an E was grabbed by Ning Cheng, her pale face finally recovered some of its rosy color. She subconsciously moved closer to Ning Cheng and said, "When I came down from the winding path, I found that you were no longer by my side. Then I saw a huge black claw grabbing at me. I unexpectedly could not speak. Just as I was about to be grabbed by the pitch-black claw, a yellow light suddenly appeared in front of my chest and blocked the pitch-black claw. Only then did I cry out. What's going on? Big Brother Ning?" Even if an E did not understand why Ning Cheng suddenly used the fire edge, but that sharp cry was still very clear to her. Ning Cheng waved his hand and once again released his spiritual sense. A few vague figures appeared in the range of his spiritual sense. Ning Cheng could feel the aura of life from these figures. He immediately knew that these figures were different from the previous one. There should be other people who had entered this place. But these people had not seen him yet. Ning Cheng hurriedly took an E a few steps and hid behind a piece of withered grass. Whether it was or not, this place was somewhat strange. Ning Cheng cursed Taoist Pooh in his heart for being shameless. Before he had also told him that he was 15, but fortunately he had come to the Lansha Island first. Moreover, this guy also had the true ignition talisman, which he did not reveal at all. Because of this, an E almost disappeared. After the 8 people came to the Bluestone Road, they immediately saw the dark red walls of the courtyard, and also saw the unlatched door. Of course we will listen to Brother Pooh's instructions. Brother Pooh can just say it. Miao Xiaoming immediately said, indicating that he insisted on standing on the side of Taoist Pooh. Looking at the 8 people flashing through the unlatched door, Ning Cheng immediately dispelled the idea of going in. They had not even entered the courtyard, and there were already so many strange things happening. Once they went in, would there still be any good things? He was not afraid of things, but because his cultivation level was too low, he was only at the Qi gathering 4th level. Although the golden cicada fruit was good, but if it was possible to fight for it, it was not worthwhile for him to risk his life for it. Ning Cheng was relieved, although these figures could not be seen with the naked eye, but once they were detected by his spiritual sense, he could just use a fireball to deal with them. From this, it could be seen that the use of spiritual sense was much more powerful than sight. At this moment, Ning Cheng made up his mind. In the future when he cultivated, he must not neglect his spiritual sense. Before when they were in the beast carriage, Taoist Pooh had threatened him to team up with them. Now that he did not take revenge, then he would not be Ning Cheng. What's more, if Taoist Pooh came out of this courtyard, he would definitely get some good things. Do we want to go in? An E asked in a low voice. She suddenly did not want to go into the dark red wall. She always felt that this wall was somewhat strange. There were 2 other reasons why Ning Cheng did not want to go. One was that he did not know how to get out of this place, and the other was that he wanted to kill Taoist Pooh. Ning Cheng waved his hand, and once again forcibly released his spiritual sense. This time the scope of his inspection seemed to be a bit bigger. It had already reached about 1.5 meters. A vague figure appeared in his spiritual sense. This figure seemed to be staring at him and an E. Moreover, it did not have any signs of life. Big Brother Ning, the golden cicada fruit is inside the courtyard with the red walls. Is this the place where a senior once lived? An E whispered in Ning Cheng's ear. Yes, what Brother Pooh said is right. This time without Brother Pooh's array formation diagram, we would not have been able to come here. As for Brother Pooh's warning, I already know about it. The narrow-eyed cultivator thought that Taoist Pooh wanted to reiterate his role, and quickly repeated the words that he had said many times before. The yellow light on her chest? Ning Cheng immediately remembered the yellow jade pendant that An Yi's master had left for An Yi before she died. That jade pendant was hanging on An Yi's chest. Was this the jade pendant that protected An Yi? Ning Cheng forcibly revolved his spiritual sense, although he did not cultivate the profound wishful wood secret art, but from the cultivation method he knew, if a chi-gathering cultivator's spiritual sense was strong enough, then they would be able to release their spiritual sense and would be able to see more clearly than with their eyes. Chapter 38. Although Taoist Pu's hair was disheveled, but the excitement in his eyes was hard to contain. He crazily rushed out from Ning Cheng's side, and did not pay attention to Ning Cheng and an Yi who were hiding on the side. A thick spiritual qi was emitting from the cloth bag on his back. This kind of spiritual qi was very familiar to Ning Cheng. It was the spiritual qi from the spirit stones. Ning Cheng had been waiting for Taoist Pu for a long time. When Taoist Pu came out, he almost immediately brought an Yi along with him. At this time Ning Cheng no longer cared about the consumption of his qi, as his spiritual sense directly fell onto Taoist Pu's body. Before this, Ning Cheng really did not put Taoist Pu in his eyes. However, when his spiritual will swept across Taoist Pu's body, his heart immediately tightened. In front of him was this Taoist Pu at the chi-gathering 3rd level. He was clearly a guy at the chi-gathering 7th level. He did not know where this person came from, but unexpectedly had such a formidable concealment cultivation method, so that Ning Cheng was not able to see that he was at the chi-gathering 7th level. Chi-gathering 7th level was already at the late stages of the chi-gathering realm. This guy's concealment was really too deep. After knowing that this Taoist Pu was at the chi-gathering 7th level, Ning Cheng was no longer as calm as before. He was sure that once this Taoist Pu came out of the haze, he would be the first to discover him. At this moment, the reason why Taoist Pu did not notice him was because Taoist Pu was unable to release his spiritual will, and also because Taoist Pu did not think that there would be someone specifically waiting for him here. I can't let this person lead the way. Ning Cheng did not hesitate to take out his flying sword type artifact, and suddenly sped up a step forward. The flying sword in his hands swept out with a sword light. Taoist Pu had been to the Lansha Island more than 10 times. He was very clear that although this place looked very scary, in fact, as long as one was proficient in array formations, one would be able to master a way to avoid being targeted by evil spirits. Of course, the prerequisite was to not enter the red-walled courtyard and not go to the back of the courtyard. However, Taoist Pu was extremely confident in himself in this Lansha Island, but he was also extremely careful, plus his cultivation was far beyond Ning Cheng's. Ning Cheng's flying sword light had just swept out, when he perceived it, and simultaneously twisted his body. Poof! A bloody light flashed. Taoist Pu unexpectedly managed to escape the fate of being cut in half by Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng's flying sword had directly split his waist in half. However, it did not take away his life, but only seriously injured him. An Yi and Ning Cheng had been together for a long time, and had also protected Ning Cheng at sea for a few days. As such, she was much more seasoned compared to when she had just come out. Almost in the next moment when Ning Cheng started, she had already thrown out 3 wind edges, while simultaneously untying the thin thread tied to her wrist by Ning Cheng. Taoist Pu narrowly escaped Ning Cheng's deadly sword light, but was hit by several of An Yi's wind edges. However, these few wind edges only caused Taoist Pu's injuries to worsen and did not take his life. Taoist Pu staggered a few steps before he finally stopped. At this time Ning Cheng discovered that he and Taoist Pu had already come out of the haze and had arrived at a winding trail. As for whether or not this trail was the same as the one he had used to get here, Ning Cheng did not care about it. He guessed that since Taoist Pu took this path, it meant that this path was the way out. "It's you?" Taoist Pu forcibly used his qi to stop his injuries, but when he turned around he saw Ning Cheng carrying a flying sword. Ning Cheng did not answer. The flying sword in his hands once again brought out a sword light, while at the same time a few more flame edges flew out. Striking the iron while it's hot, Taoist Pu was already at the chi-gathering 7th level. Once he recovered, he and An Yi would definitely not feel good. Taoist Pu's face was pale. He saw that Ning Cheng did not say a single word and continued to attack. He understood that Ning Cheng was determined to kill him without a doubt. There was no point in talking nonsense. Almost at the same time, he pulled out a scimitar. Once again, Ning Cheng's sword light swept towards him. He was not reconciled. As for Ning Cheng wanting to kill him, he certainly understood. Before in the beast carriage, if Ning Cheng dared to disagree with his proposal to form a team, he would have immediately killed Ning Cheng on the grounds that it was a secret that could not be leaked out. What he was not reconciled to was that before he came to the Lansha Island, he had just advanced to the Qi Gathering 7th level. This time he had obtained a large number of extremely precious spirit stones. Advancing to the true condensation realm was only a matter of time for him. But at this critical juncture, he was ambushed by Ning Cheng. He did not understand how Ning Cheng was able to remain safe and sound in the Lansha Island. There were illusory arrays and real evil spirits, as well as some evil spirit soldiers. He did not know the specific situation of the array formations. Even if an essence-building cultivator came, they would not necessarily be able to get a good result. Even if Ning Cheng knew the route map, how could he hide here for many days to ambush him and not be discovered by the evil spirits? Dang, a sound was heard, the sword light splashed. Ning Cheng was forced to retreat a few steps, but Ning Cheng did not stop for even half a moment. The flying sword in his hands once again turned into a sword light. You unexpectedly also have an artifact? At this time Taoist Pu came to his senses. Ning Cheng was using a good quality artifact. Although he was seriously injured before, but he did not panic. He had the cultivation of Qi Gathering 7th level. Even if he was seriously injured, he could still rely on the artifact in his hands to kill Ning Cheng and an E. Now that Ning Cheng also had an artifact, and even better than his artifact, Taoist Pu's eyes showed a little panic. Because he also felt that Ning Cheng's cultivation was not only at the Qi Gathering 4th level. At this time, In Yi's several wind edges once again flew over. Taoist Pu had to avoid In Yi's wind edges, while at the same time Ning Cheng's sword light once again fell. Taoist Pu once again wanted to use the scimitar-type artifact in his hands, but he had just gathered his qi. When he felt a sharp pain in his waist, he had not stopped bleeding a moment ago, and a blood mist once again sprayed out from the wound. The speed of the scimitar immediately slowed down, and at this time Ning Cheng's sword light had already fallen. The flying sword light split Taoist Pu into two halves from his shoulder to his waist. Taoist Pu was extremely unwilling to fall down. Ning Cheng gasped for breath and immediately rushed up. He picked up the package on Taoist Pu's back and threw it into his storage bag, and then used a fireball to burn Taoist Pu to ashes. He said to An E, let's hurry up, I guess that the people from the Mingot city will come soon. The two of them ran along the winding path, and in less than half an hour, the two of them once again saw the reef on the beach. This was not the place where the two of them had entered the Lansha Island, but rather on the other side. A small wooden boat was anchored at the edge of the island. Ning Cheng was happy in his heart. This boat definitely belonged to Taoist Pu. At the bow of the boat there was a pile of materials from the sea beasts. These materials must have been left behind by Taoist Pu. Ning Cheng did not understand. Taoist Pu was a late-stage qi gathering cultivator. How could he put these ordinary materials from the sea beasts in his eyes? These materials from the sea beasts, Ning Cheng did not throw them away. He just pushed the materials to the side, and then quickly sailed away from the Lansha Island. After the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, Ning Cheng and An E controlled the wooden boat and left the Lansha Island behind them. Until this time An E sighed and said, "Big brother Ning, my heart was suppressed on that island. I always had a very bad feeling." Ning Cheng nodded. "I am the same as you. I always felt that the island was definitely not so simple. In the future, when our cultivation is high enough, we can come back to have a look. An E, your jade pendant should also be a good magic weapon. You have to be careful with it, don't let others find it." An E replied, "I know." Once again returning to the sea, Ning Cheng first took out the cloth bag from his storage bag. He wanted to see his spoils of war. Opening the cloth bag, a white shining spirit stones made Ning Cheng pleasantly surprised. This small pile of spirit stones, there were at least 400 or 500 pieces. Moreover, they were exactly the same as the spirit stones that he had obtained before, but some of the spirit stones were missing a bit. But this did not affect his cultivation. An E, we are rich, this is a real windfall. Ning Cheng beamed with joy. What he lacked the most was spirit stones. There were nearly 500 spirit stones in here. If he used 100 spirit stones to advance to the next level, maybe he would be able to cultivate to the great circle of the Qi-gathering realm. Ning Cheng also knew that using 100 spirit stones to advance to the next level, it was just a beautiful wish in his heart. Even if he did not cultivate to the later levels, he could guess that the spirit stones that he would need for his cultivation would be more and more. Ning Cheng was about to distribute the spirit stones, when an Yi stopped his actions and said, "Big brother Ning, the spirit stones that you gave me last time, I have not finished using them. Moreover, you will need more spirit stones for your cultivation. When I finish using them, I will ask you again." Ning Cheng also thought that it was true. Anyway, an Yi had always been with him, it would be the same no matter who it was. After putting away all the spirit stones, Ning Cheng found a jade box at the bottom of the cloth bag. When the jade box was opened, a familiar fragrance assailed their nostrils. Golden cicada fruit? Ning Cheng and an Yi simultaneously called out. In the jade box in Ning Cheng's hands, there was a blue-colored fruit. This fruit also had two wings shape, but the wings shape had a hint of gold on them. No wonder it was called golden cicada fruit. Ning Cheng quickly covered the jade box. That Taoist Pooh really had a big mouth. That bastard said that there were a lot of golden cicada fruits. Now I only see this one. After Ning Cheng put away the golden cicada fruit, he was glad in his heart that he did not fall into that guy's trap. Although this time he went out to sea in a hurry, but Ning Cheng was very satisfied. At least his harvest was good. The only regret was that he had no way to save Feng Fei Zhang, who he had a good impression of. He knew that with his ability, being able to escape from the Lansha Island was already a stroke of luck. If he wanted to save Feng Fei Zhang, his strength was simply not enough. After being happy, Ning Cheng and an Yi soon became entangled. They were lost. In this boundless sea, the two of them simply did not know which direction to go. The Mingat Sea was always gloomy all year round, without any indication of direction. A few days passed by. Ning Cheng was a little anxious in his heart. Not only did he not find the edge of the Mingat Sea, he did not even find an island. "Big brother Ning, there is a ship coming." And Yi was not as anxious as Ning Cheng. Instead, Ning Cheng was the first to see a ship. That ship was heading towards their direction. Chapter 39. Ning Cheng also saw the approaching ship and was surprised in his heart. He urgently needed to find someone to ask for directions, but he was afraid of being seen. In the Mingat city, he had offended two major forces, so the ships here were definitely related to the Mingat city. Once they recognized him and an Yi, then their ending would certainly not be good. In just a moment, the ship was already close to Ning Cheng's ship. "Ha ha, I did not expect to meet brother Ning and your cousin in the boundless Mingat Sea. It really is fate." A hearty laughter came. Ning Cheng at this time already recognized who this person was. It was Lu Buahong who had helped him out in the Mingat city. Lu Buahong appearing here at this time simply did not need to think. He definitely came back from the Lansha Island, but he did not know what his harvest was. To be able to meet brother Lu in the Mingat Sea, it really is fate. Ning Cheng also smiled as he cupped his fists and said, but in his heart he was somewhat helpless. Lu Buahong would certainly ask him what he was doing here. How should he answer? If he said that he came back from the Lansha Island, then that would be an idiot statement. Sure enough, Lu Buahong immediately asked, "Brother Ning is really courageous. You even dared to kill the Mingat city's Miao Wen Hong. This Lu really admires you. Not only that, but brother Ning also dared to stay at the edge of the Mingat Sea. It really is courageous." Ning Cheng saw Lu Buahong's eyes sweep over the pile of sea beast materials at the bow of his ship, and instantly understood why Taoist Pooh had piled up so many sea beast materials here. In his heart he could not help but admire Taoist Pooh. In terms of experience, he was far inferior to Taoist Pooh. Taoist Pooh had these sea beast materials. It was clear that he was looking for an excuse to go out to sea. Ning Cheng, with a calm look on his face, said, "Miao Wen Hong was too much of a bully. If I did not have a high-level thunder talisman, my cousin and I would have been killed by this person. Killing this person, I was just acting in self-defense." Acting in self-defense? Lu Buahong took a while to understand the meaning of Ning Cheng's words, and immediately agreed. Brother Ning killed him. If this kind of second-generation ancestor fell into my hands, I would not hesitate to kill him. Ning Cheng was speechless in his heart. You are from the Clear Heart Academy. If you want to kill Miao Wenhong, then of course there would not be any problem. Li Buohong did not seem to think about his own backer. After saying those words, he stared at the pile of materials from the sea beasts on the bow of the ship and said, Brother Ning, you are already at the Qi Gathering 4th level. These materials from the sea beasts can only be exchanged for a few gold coins. Although you have made a lot of them, they are not of much help to your cultivation. Ning Cheng pretended to be helpless and said, How could I not know about this? But my cousin and I are just 2 rogue cultivators, we do not have any backing, and our cultivations are poor. In addition to collecting some materials from the sea beasts in the Mingot Sea, we really have nowhere else to go. After Li Buohong heard Ning Cheng's words, he then said, Brother Ning, if you believe in this Li's words, why don't you come with me to the Clear Heart Academy to have a look? Even if elder brother Ning could not enter the Clear Heart Academy, doing some work at the side of the academy would be much better than living in the Mingot Sea. What's more, brother Ning has offended the Mingot City's Wolf Palace. If you take your cousin to survive in the vicinity, it would be somewhat difficult. Ning Cheng saw Li Buohong's eyes sweep over Yi's body from time to time. How could he not know what he was thinking? But what he said was right. The Mingot Sea was really not a place where he could continue to stay. What Brother Li said is right. Before Brother Li told me that the Clear Heart Academy would recruit students from the entire Ping continent in a year's time, I am collecting these sea beasts, in order to find some money to travel to the Clear Heart Academy. Ning Cheng said to Li Buohong. Li Buohong looked at Ning Cheng and replied, Elder Brother Ning, please forgive me for speaking frankly. If Elder Brother Ning intends to rely on gold coins to travel to the Clear Heart Academy, even if you leave immediately, it would be very difficult to reach the Clear Heart Academy within a year. Half a month later, there will be an airship passing by the Mingot City. We are going to take this airship back to the Clear Heart Academy. If Elder Brother Ning does not mind, you can come with us. Ning Cheng was moved in his heart, but immediately shook his head and said, I and the 2 major forces of the Mingot City have enmity. Moreover, even if there is an airship passing by, I do not have enough gold coins to pay for it. Li Buohong laughed and said, Elder Brother Ning, you should not have sat in this airship. This airship is a large artifact, and does not accept gold coins. At least you will need Qi Gathering stones, but for a long distance, they do not even accept Qi Gathering stones, they only accept low-grade spirit stones. Low-grade spirit stones? Ning Cheng repeated the words, his face showed some shock. The woman standing behind Li Buohong suddenly said, Rather than stopping in the middle of the sea, it would be better to come on board our ship and talk. Although Ning Cheng did not know the name of this woman, but he had seen her once in the Mingot City. Qi Gathering 7th level, according to the badge on her chest, she should also be from the Clear Heart Academy. After Li Buohong listened to the woman's words, he apologetically said to Ning Cheng, Elder Brother Ning, let me introduce you. This is junior apprentice Sister Lu Shui. Then he pointed to the other 2 people and said, These 2 are Yin Wenguang and Su Xiang. This time the 4 of us came out together to gain experience. This time we were in the Mingot Sea for many days and just came back. Junior apprentice Sister Lu Shui's words are also reasonable. Elder Brother Ning might as well abandon the ship and travel with us. One had to say that Li Buohong's words were very graceful. He asked Ning Cheng to abandon the ship. He did not say that his ship was not worth anything, it would be better to abandon it. This time Ning Cheng did not hesitate and directly winked at an E. He took out a cloth bag from the cabin and then brought an E onto Li Buohong's ship. Ning Cheng's ship did not have any control and instantly separated from Li Buohong's ship and disappeared into the boundless sea. Seeing Ning Cheng abandon the ship and travel with them, Li Buohong enthusiastically said, The fare from the Mingot City to the Clear Heart Academy is 2 spirit stones per person. Elder Brother Ning, as for your spirit stones, Ning Cheng knew what Li Buohong wanted to say. He quickly waved his hand and said, I have a knife here. Elder Brother Li can help me see how much it is worth? Is it enough for the fare? While speaking, Ning Cheng took out the knife that he had taken from San Pai from the cloth bag. Before Feng Fei Zhang had helped him pay for the fare, he still owed Feng Fei Zhang a favor, so he could not help much. At this time Ning Cheng was not willing to owe people a favor for no reason. Hey, Elder Brother Ning also has a low-grade artifact? Li Buohong saw Ning Cheng take out the knife, and immediately said in a surprised voice. But he immediately guessed that this artifact should belong to Miao Wenhong. "This knife is worth 4 spirit stones, give it to me." Lu Shui, who had invited Ning Cheng and an Yi to board the ship, suddenly said. When Ning Cheng heard Lu Shui's words, he knew that his knife was not worth 4 spirit stones. Lu Shui should have said that to help him. Even if he knew that Lu Shui would help him, Ning Cheng still handed the knife to Lu Shui and said, "Thank you, senior apprentice Sister Lu, you do not need to give me the spirit stones. When the time comes, I can ask senior apprentice Sister Lu to help me pay for the fare." Seeing that Ning Cheng did not want to take advantage of Lu Buhong, the few people here changed their opinion of Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng also introduced an Yi to them, and soon the few of them became friendly and even more familiar with each other. Ning Cheng also learned from Lu Buhong that they really came back from the Lansha Island. This time there were hundreds of cultivators who went to the Lansha Island. There were even cultivators at the Qi Gathering first level and second level. But after these cultivators entered the Lansha Island, they directly disappeared without a trace. Lu Buhong and the others had a set of advanced level defensive array disc on them, so they were able to survive. But the few of them did not dare to continue to search the island, and immediately returned. "I am sure that the Lansha Island has the golden cicada fruit, was fabricated by someone," the dark-skinned Yin Wenguang said with some indignation. Ning Cheng asked in doubt, "Why is elder brother Yin so sure? Didn't you say that someone had already obtained the golden cicada fruit from the Lansha Island?" Ning Cheng knew that the Lansha Island definitely had the golden cicada fruit, otherwise it would be impossible for him to get this kind of thing from Taoist Pu. Lu Buhong smiled and said, "Elder brother Ning does not know. This Wenguang is from the Clear Heart Academy's medicinal liquid branch. He specializes in all kinds of medicinal liquids, and is also in contact with pills, so this Wenguang has a certain degree of certainty in his words." Ning Cheng already knew what medicinal liquids were, but in his heart he was thinking that this Clear Heart Academy was just like the universities on Earth. It seems that there were various branches. Yin Wenguang was also not modest, and directly said, "The golden cicada fruit is a very fragrant spiritual fruit before it matures. The Lansha Island is only in this area. If there was a golden cicada fruit, I would definitely be able to smell it. After we entered the island, there was not even the slightest aroma of the golden cicada fruit. I knew that the Lansha Island should be a scam." "Elder brother Lu, the Clear Heart Academy has a medicinal liquid branch. Does it also have a refining branch, array formations branch, and so on?" Ning Cheng was not willing to talk about the topic of the Lansha Island. He was more interested in the Clear Heart Academy. Lu Buhong shook his head and said, "That is not the case. I heard that in the intermediate class continent's 6-star academies, there is already such a division. The Clear Heart Academy does not have this kind of strength. In addition to the medicinal liquid branch, the rest are all mixed together. They are only divided according to their cultivation level. Of course, some of the disciples with excellent qualifications can worship a single master. Disciples who are able to find a master on their own will be able to obtain more cultivation resources." Ning Cheng suddenly asked, "Your cultivation level is so high, are you able to worship a single master?" Lu Buhong chuckled and said, "Elder brother Ning, we are only in the Qi Gathering realm. It simply does not count as anything. At my age, in the Qi Gathering realm, it can only be said to be above average. I can barely enter the core classes." Ning Cheng had always thought that the 3-star academies were only SOSO. The really good academies should be Ji Luo Fei's Falling Star 5-star academy. Now that he heard Lu Buhong's words, Ning Cheng was really surprised. Listening to Lu Buhong's words, the Clear Heart 3-star academy's Qi Gathering late-stage students were really common. There were also many students in the True Condensation realm. Seeing Ning Cheng surprised, Lu Buhong suddenly asked, "Elder brother Ning looks to be very young, but you are already at the Qi Gathering 4th level. Presumably your qualifications are not bad, right?" Ning Cheng said with a wry smile, "I only have a 3-line hybrid support spiritual root. The reason why I was able to reach the Qi Gathering 4th level is because I coincidentally obtained 5 good Qi Gathering pills." If Lu Buhong asked about the origin of the Qi Gathering pills, Ning Cheng would push out Ji Luo Fei's paternal aunt as a shield. Ning Cheng's words, made Le Bohong and the others look at each other. In their view, Ning Cheng was able to advance to the Qi-gathering 4th level in this kind of resource-deficient environment. His spiritual root was certainly not bad. But they did not think that he would only have a trifling 3-line hybrid support spiritual root. This kind of spiritual root was really not worth making friends with. Chapter 40. Not to mention that Ning Cheng had used 5 Qi-gathering pills, and was only able to advance to the Qi-gathering 4th level, it could be seen that his spiritual roots were mixed to such a degree, it was simply tragic. Ning Cheng, your spiritual roots are so bad, why didn't you give the Qi-gathering pills to your cousin Yi? Is your cousin's spiritual root as bad as yours? Lu Shui directly called out Ning Cheng's name. Ning Cheng did not care, this world was very realistic. His spiritual root was bad, obviously he did not have a future. Letting a Qi-gathering 7th level person call him Brother Ning, it was really not realistic. This did not have much to do with looking down on him. In fact, birds of a feather flock together, this sentence was applicable everywhere. He and Le Bohong, Lu Shui and the others were not in the same group. Now that Lu Shui asked about an Yi, Ning Cheng quickly said, "My cousin has a pure wood spiritual root, it's 100,000 miles better. But when she was a child, she went with her master, until her master passed away, I found her. At that time, I had already eaten all the Qi-gathering pills. If an Yi's spiritual root was even worse, maybe Le Bohong would not have brought them to the Clear Heart Academy. Leaving him and his cousin in the Mingot Sea, he was really not sure that they could escape the pursuit of the Mingot City's forces. Junior apprentice Sister Yi, do you have a pure wood spiritual root?" Lu Shui's eyes lit up and immediately asked. Not only Lu Shui's eyes lit up, but the rest of the people also looked at an Yi with envy. A pure wood spiritual root going to the Clear Heart Academy would definitely be accepted by a master. An Yi nodded and said, "Yes, I have a pure wood spiritual root." Knowing that an Yi had a pure wood spiritual root, Le Bohong and the others were even more enthusiastic, but this enthusiasm had already been transferred from Ning Cheng to an Yi. Ning Cheng did not care. Pure spiritual roots were valued, he already knew that it was a matter of course. Ning Cheng followed Le Bohong and the others back to the Mingot City 3 days later. This was the second time that Ning Cheng had come to the Mingot City. The first time Ning Cheng had only stayed here for less than half an hour, before he had to leave. This time he was also helpless. If he did not follow Le Bohong, he simply did not know how to get to the Clear Heart Academy. The Mingot City was still the same as before, but at the entrance of the Mingot City, there was a very short, fierce-looking man. "Ning Cheng, this person is called Miao Li Hu, and is the great mansion master of the Wolf Palace. The Miao Wenhong that you killed was his son. I heard that this person is extremely protective of his people. You don't have to worry, there are people from our Clear Heart Academy, he won't dare to do anything to you." After Le Bohong knew that Ning Cheng only had a hybrid support spiritual root, plus he was much older than Ning Cheng, he no longer called him Brother Ning. However, he was still quite polite. Other than the way he addressed him, he did not change anything else. He did not know if it was related to an Yi or not. Even without Le Bohong's words, Ning Cheng could feel that this person was staring at him with an intense killing intent. Le Bohong said that this person was Miao Wenhong's father, and it seemed like he was not wrong. "Did you kill my son Wenhong?" Miao Li, who casually cupped his fists towards Le Bohong and the others, and fiercely stared at Ning Cheng and asked. Ning Cheng's heart sank. He felt that Miao Li Hu simply did not put Le Bohong and the others in his eyes. Moreover, Miao Li Hu's cultivation level, he could not see through it. Since he could not see through it, it could be seen that Miao Li Hu was undoubtedly a cultivator in the true condensation realm. "Who is your son?" Ning Cheng said as if nothing had happened, while in his heart he was thinking that if Le Bohong could not help him, then what should he do? "My son is Miao Wenhong, he went to chase you, and then did not come back. Did you not kill my son? Leave your head as a sacrifice to my son." Miao Li Hu shouted. He took a step forward, and was about to attack Ning Cheng. Le Bohong did not think that Miao Li Hu would not even put him in his eyes. He also took a step forward, his face sank and said, "Miao Li Hu, what do you mean by this? Could it be that my Clear Heart Academy is not even worth mentioning in your eyes?" Miao Li Hu's eyes were red as he stared at Le Bohong and said, I have always respected the Clear Heart Academy. My son was now killed, and the person who killed my son is not from the Clear Heart Academy. Does the Clear Heart Academy want to stop me from avenging my son? Lu Buhong did not think that Miao Li Hu, who had always been afraid of the Clear Heart Academy, would dare to argue with him. His face immediately turned red with anger. Lu Shui came forward and said, "Lord Miao, it does not matter if you kill Ning Cheng, but I am sure that if you kill Ning Cheng now, 1 month later, the name of the Wolf Palace will be removed, and no one from the Miao family will be left alive." Lu Shui's words made Miao Li Hu shiver. His hatred suddenly cooled down a lot. If the people from the Clear Heart Academy were determined to protect this kid called Ning Cheng, he simply could not kill him, unless he was willing to flee to the ends of the earth. But why would this kid let the disciples of the Clear Heart Academy come forward? Thinking of this, Miao Li Hu calmed down a lot. He turned to Lu Shui and cupped his fists and said, "I, Miao Li Hu, am very clear about gratitude and grudges. This kid is not from the Clear Heart Academy. I am very clear about it. If the Clear Heart Academy wants to destroy my Wolf Palace, it would be a simple matter, but they can't distinguish between right and wrong and not speak about morality, right?" Lu Shui sneered and said, "Not distinguish between right and wrong, not speak about morality? Lord Miao, these words can be said by others, but you are slapping your own face. What kind of trash is your precious son, who in the Mingot city does not know? You can only let your son kill people, but others cannot kill your son, right?" After saying these words, Lu Shui was too lazy to talk with Miao Li Hu, and directly pointed to an E and said, "She is Ning Cheng's cousin. Do you know who she is from the Clear Heart Academy? An E has a pure wood spiritual root. I am a core disciple of the Clear Heart Academy. I am fully qualified to recommend her to become a core disciple of the Clear Heart Academy." So, an E is now equivalent to a core disciple of the Clear Heart Academy, and Ning Cheng is her cousin. If you do not want the Wolf Palace, and are willing to destroy the Miao clan, then you can kill him. Because Miao Li Hu did not give him even a little face. At this time Lu Buhong's face was already gloomy. After Lu Shui finished, he did not wait for Miao Li Hu to answer, and continued in a cold voice, "Miao Li Hu, don't think that this is the Mingot city. You are already a cultivator of the true condensation realm, and you can strut around. I really do not put you in my eyes. As long as I use the name of the Clear Heart Academy to kill you, I am sure that there will be a lot of people coming to take your head." Miao Li Hu at this time completely calmed down. His hands were clenched so tightly that his veins were showing. But he was very clear that Lu Buhong was not lying once he angered the disciples of the Clear Heart Academy. Even in the Mingot city, there were a lot of people who were willing to sell their lives for the Clear Heart Academy. He was just a cultivator of the true condensation realm. He really did not count as anything. In the Mingot city, the Wolf Palace was not a hegemon. Even if he took a step back, no one would help the disciples of the Clear Heart Academy. Ning Cheng had a cousin with a pure spiritual root. He could not do anything to Ning Cheng unless he killed him together. Miao Li Hu fiercely stared at Ning Cheng, but finally gave up. He turned around and quickly disappeared from the Mingot city. He had to kill Ning Cheng, but he had to change the method. Ning Cheng turned to Lu Buhong and Lu Shui and cupped his fists in gratitude, but in his heart he was also secretly determined. He must hold his fate in his own hands. This kind of feeling really made people uncomfortable. At this time he had hundreds of spirit stones on him, and also a golden cicada fruit. Who knows if he could advance to the true condensation realm. Chapter 41. Junior Apprentice Sister and E. Let me introduce you. This is Senior Apprentice Sister Yong Gu Yun from the Clear Heart Academy. Senior Apprentice Sister Yong is helping the Clear Heart Academy to select students. Ning Cheng and an E came out. Lu Shui enthusiastically introduced an E to her. Beside her there were already several people chattering. Some of them were telling each other about the dangers they had experienced and the gains they had. Some of them were talking about the students they had chosen to represent the Ping Continent's Clear Heart Academy. Lu Buhong and the others were also like Lu Shui. They were also gathered together in a circle and were happily discussing with each other. Ning Cheng knew that he was not in the same circle as them. The people who were gathered in this circle had the lowest cultivation level of Qi gathering 6th level. Yong Gu Yun was already at the peak of Qi gathering 8th level. In contrast, his chi-gathering 4th level cultivation, in this kind of place, was really not worth mentioning. The reason why an E was able to become friends with Lu Shui, he estimated that it was because of her spiritual roots. If an E was the same as him, with a hybrid support spiritual root, then presumably she would not be a person in this circle. And E did not speak much. After her master's death, it was a big blow to her. But recently, after going through life and death with Ning Cheng, she had seen too many things, and a lot of things slowly opened up to her. Moreover, Lu Shui was a woman, so she had a lot of common words with her. Under the deliberate enthusiasm of Lu Shui, an E, who did not have much experience, was gradually integrated into this circle of friends. Ning Cheng did not interrupt. He was sizing up this huge airship-type artifact. When he was on Earth, he had not taken an airplane, but he knew how big an airplane was. Now in his view, even the largest airplane was not even a tenth of the size of this huge airship-type artifact. This was a real giant. For this huge airship to fly, he did not know if it was purely relying on spirit stones, or if it was something else. He did not believe that an airship without a power source would fly for no reason. It was not until they boarded the airship that an E had the opportunity to come out and call out to Ning Cheng. Who is he? Yong Guyun knew that an Yi's spiritual roots were better than hers, and also had a pure spiritual root, so she was very concerned about an E. Now that an E specifically called out to a cultivator at the chi-gathering 4th level, she asked in doubt. Lu Shui looked at an Yi's back and sighed. That is an Yi's cousin Ning Cheng. An Yi's relationship with him seems to be very unusual. Yong Guyun immediately asked, how is Ning Cheng's spiritual root? Lu Shui shook her head and said, I heard that it is a very poor multi-line hybrid support spiritual root and is far from an E. It's impossible in the Mingatsi area. How can a person with a hybrid support spiritual root be able to cultivate like this? Looking at his chi fluctuations, he should be at the chi gathering 4th level, right? Yong Guyun asked in surprise. Because he was lucky enough to obtain 5 chi gathering pills. Lu Buahong smiled as he walked over, but Ning Cheng is still a good person. He is very principled, but unfortunately, it is very likely that he will stop at the chi-gathering realm for the rest of his life. I estimate that it would be very difficult for him to reach the chi-gathering 7th level. If that is the case, then he really should not go to the Clear Heart Academy. At the Clear Heart Academy, an E will definitely be accepted as a disciple by an essence-building elder, and Ning Cheng will never be able to see her again. Yong Guyun looked at Ning Cheng and said, Ning Cheng did not know what other people would think of him, but he had come from Earth. As such, he had seen a lot of different kinds of people. He could even predict that after he arrived at the Clear Heart Academy, he would not be welcomed. At this time, an E came over and asked him to board the boat. He glanced at the rest of the students of the Clear Heart Academy who were staring at him, and said to an E, with your spiritual root, after you arrive at the Clear Heart Academy, you will definitely be guided by a famous teacher and will become a core disciple of the Clear Heart Academy. The opportunities for us to see each other in the future will be very few. I will find an opportunity to share some spirit stones with you. And E was surprised in her heart, and quickly said, Big brother, I want to be with you. My master also said that, I want to be with you. Ning Cheng smiled bitterly and said, an E, your master said that because you did not have any friends at that time, and no one to take care of you, now that you have friends, you will certainly be heavily trained by the Clear Heart Academy. Even if your master was still alive, he would not want you to be with me. No, I want to be with you, an E stubbornly said. She did not have many reasons to refute Ning Cheng. She simply felt that only by being with Ning Cheng would she feel comfortable. Ning Cheng sighed and said, we have to leave the Mingat city. When we arrive at the Clear Heart Academy, you will have to work hard to cultivate. I believe that the Clear Heart Academy will have a lot of cultivation resources for you. Besides, your master said that your origin is not ordinary. If your cultivation level is not raised, there is no way to know your origin. More importantly, if you become a core disciple of the Academy, and are still together with me, maybe the Clear Heart Academy will think that I am delaying you. And E was silent. She was no longer that naive little nun who had just come out. She understood the meaning of Ning Cheng's words. Ning Cheng's spiritual root was poor. If she still wanted to be together with Ning Qing, maybe the academy would kill Ning Qing for delaying her. During this period of time, she had seen too many bloody things. I understand, I will remember Big Brother's words. And secretly made up her mind, she must work hard to cultivate, and when her cultivation level was high, she would then help Ning Qing to find more spirit stones. Ning Qing felt a bit sad in his heart. Now he could still see an but after arriving at the Clear Heart Academy, perhaps it would be very difficult to see her. After I arrive at the academy, I will certainly have cultivation resources. You do not have to give those things to me. You will definitely need more resources. And had seen Ning Qing cultivate. She knew that the amount of spirit stones that Ning Qing needed to cultivate was too terrifying. Although Ning Qing had obtained a few hundred spirit stones, but it was simply not enough for him to waste. And get on the boat? Lu Shui called out from afar. Ning Qing pulled An Yi's hand and said, "Let's go, let's get on the boat." Miao Li, who was standing at the side, fiercely stared at Ning Qing and An Yi's back. He swore in his heart, even if he did not want the Wolf Palace, he would secretly follow them to the Ming Yi country, and then look for an opportunity to kill Ning Qing. Ning Qing did not guess wrong. When he and An Yi boarded the boat, An Yi was arranged to stay in a better room. Ning Qing asked the guide, and came to know that this boat was a partnership between the Clear Heart Academy and the Ming Yi country. Ning Qing did not occupy a room alone, but rather he shared a room with 5 other people that he did not know. These 5 people had the same characteristics. They were all very young. The oldest among them looked to be about 20 years old. What made Ning Qing feel relieved was that his cultivation was finally not the worst in this room. There were 5 people in this room, and 2 of them were only at the Qi Gathering 2nd level. "Excuse me, are you also students of the Clear Heart Academy?" Ning Qing came in and cupped his fists and asked. He felt strange in his heart, even if it was the Clear Heart Academy. A cultivator at the Qi Gathering 2nd level wanting to earn 2 low-grade spirit stones for the boat fare was not a simple matter, right? A youth who was the same as Ning Qing, also at the Qi Gathering 4th level, replied, "Of course not. Are you not selected by the Clear Heart Academy to participate in the Clear Heart Academy's selection? Only by passing the Clear Heart Academy's selection can you be considered as a student of the Clear Heart Academy." Ning Qing suddenly came to understand. Before he had heard that this boat was a partnership between the Clear Heart Academy and the Ming Yi country. It seems that this boat was circling the entire Ping continent and picking out talented youths from all over the place to go to the Clear Heart Academy to take the test. Once they passed the test, they would be considered as a student of the Clear Heart Academy. Li Buahong said that he only needed 2 spirit stones to board the boat. Maybe he even opened a back door for him and An Yi. Ning Qing quickly became familiar with these people. These people were indeed the same as what Ning Qing had guessed. They were all selected by the Clear Heart Academy from all over the place, and were preparing to go to the Clear Heart Academy to participate in the selection test. The qualifications of the few people in his room were considered to be at the bottom, although they were at the bottom, but the worst one of them had better qualifications than Ning Qing. At least they all had a main spiritual root. What if I fail the test? Ning Qing suddenly thought that if they failed the entrance test, then the Clear Heart Academy would not accept them, and certainly would not have an airship to send them back. A skinny youth at the Qi Gathering 3rd level clenched his fists and said, "I must pass." The youth at the Qi Gathering 4th level who first spoke to Ning Qing said with disdain, "Whether you can pass or not is not up to you to decide. For people like us, if we can pass, then we will reach the sky in a single bound. If we cannot pass, then we can only stay in the Ming Yi country to live. If a person wants to go back to his hometown from the Ming Yi country, then that is simply courting death." Then he sighed and said, "If you have a spiritual root like Yu Hongfeng, then you don't have to worry." "Who is Yu Hongfeng?" Ning Qing asked. "He is a student selected by the Yuan country. I heard that he is the only student selected with a pure gold spiritual root. Even the elders on the airship are very polite to him. His future is boundless." The youth at the Qi Gathering 4th level replied with some envy. Ning Qing was moved in his heart. If a pure spiritual root was so valued, then wouldn't it mean that An Yi would also be valued? At this time, the door to the room opened with a squeak. A youth wearing a blue robe came in carrying a wooden tray. On the wooden tray there were a few boxes similar to a lunchbox. "It's time to eat." the blue-robed youth said without any expression on his face. Ningqing knew that there were people who would deliver food to his door. It seems that the treatment was not bad. The other youths in the room were obviously already used to it, and quickly went to take their own lunchboxes. After Ningqing took his lunchbox, he very politely asked the youth who delivered the food, "Excuse me, my friend, where do the disciples with pure spiritual roots live?" The youth who delivered the food looked at Ningqing with a surprised look, and then said, "They live in the core area, you can't go and see them, otherwise you will soon be driven off the ship." When the youth at the Qi Gathering 4th level heard the two words, he asked with some doubt, "Isn't it just Yu Hongfeng who has a pure spiritual root?" "Of course not. I heard that this time in the Mingot Sea they found a student with a pure wood spiritual root." The youth immediately said. Ningqing knew that the other party should be talking about an E, so an E would certainly be taken care of. But in his heart, he was still a little worried and asked, "If I want to see the students with pure spiritual roots, would it be troublesome?" "It would not be troublesome. Tomorrow evening there will be a welcoming party for the two students with pure spiritual roots. If you have the ability to get the tickets, then you can see them." The youth who delivered the food was obviously laughing at Ningqing for overestimating his capabilities. After saying that, he did not continue to talk with Ningqing and turned away from the room. Chapter 42. The food delivery boy had just left when the door was pushed open again. This time it was a middle-aged beautiful woman who came in. In addition to Ningqing, the other 5 youths who saw this middle-aged beautiful woman immediately stood up and bowed in salute, and at the same time respectfully called out, "Elder Lan." This middle-aged beautiful woman just nodded slightly and looked at Ningqing and asked, "Are you called Ningqing?" Ningqing could feel the sternness in the eyes of this middle-aged beautiful woman and did not understand why this elder was looking for him. "You come with me." This middle-aged beautiful woman did not wait for Ningqing to answer and just turned around and walked out. Ningqing was somewhat confused as he followed this middle-aged beautiful woman out of the room, and after a few turns on the boat, they entered a luxurious room that was much bigger than the room that the 6 of them had stayed in before. This middle-aged beautiful woman sat down on the main seat in the room, but did not ask Ningqing to sit down, and just asked in a light voice, "According to an E, you and an E do not seem to have a relationship of cousin and cousin, but an Yi's master asked you to take care of an E before she passed away." Ningqing did not speak. He knew that with an Yi's simplicity, in front of these old cunning people, it was not unusual for her to ask these things. He just hoped that an E would not speak about his yellow light, and also not speak about the fact that he could absorb spirit stones. Once an E spoke about this, he could only wait for his death. Ningqing believed that an E should know what was good for her, this kind of thing that no one would beat around the bush. She should not take the initiative to speak about it. After this middle-aged beautiful woman finished, she did not wait for Ningqing to answer, and said again, "Whether you are an Yi's cousin or not, I hope that you will not get close to an E in the future. This would be good for you and for an E. An Yi's future is limitless. You have a 3-line impure spiritual root, and your greatest achievement is only the Qi gathering realm. If you and an E are in contact, it will only affect an E." Ningqing said in a light voice, "I hope that an E will have a limitless future more than you, but before that, I want to confirm whether an E is really being taken care of by the Clear Heart Academy." Ningqing was sure that an E would be taken care of by the Clear Heart Academy, but the words of this middle-aged beautiful woman made him feel uncomfortable. The beautiful middle-aged woman smiled and said, "Sure," saying that she took out a wooden card and handed it to Ningqing and said, "Tomorrow evening there will be a welcome party for an E and Yu Hongfeng. You can use this wooden card to enter. When you see an E in the corner, you will understand what you should do." Ningqing took the wooden plaque and silently turned around and walked out of the room. He was too lazy to even greet this middle-aged beautiful woman. A very pretty girl rushed in at this time, brushing past Ningqing who was coming out of the room. She also deliberately glanced at Ningqing, and at the same time gave out an S sound. "Master, who is this person? So rude." The pretty girl stared at Ningqing's departing back as she asked the beautiful middle-aged woman. The middle-aged beautiful woman frowned and said, "Although this person's aptitude is poor, but he is stubborn and extremely proud. Just now he did not answer me directly, and even when he left he did not even say anything. It seems that I cannot let him go to the Clear Heart Academy. After Ning Cheng returned to his room, a few of his companions in the room looked at him strangely, but no one came over to ask him, and no one came over to strike up a conversation. Ning Cheng was also not in a good mood. He closed his eyes and continued to deduce the array formations. A day passed by in a blink of an eye. The next evening when Ning Cheng arrived at the party, the hall where the party was being held was already filled with people. It was very lively and noisy. Ning Cheng came from Earth, although he had not participated in any banquets or parties, but he had seen countless of them on TV. This was the first time that Ning Cheng had participated in this kind of party. There were no modern facilities here, but Ning Cheng was sure that the luxury of this party on the ship was definitely not worse than any party on Earth. Rows of array lights lit up the entire party, making it look like a fairyland. There were some girls wearing colorful butterfly-like dresses holding a variety of food and wine interspersed in every corner. The soft music was something that Ning Cheng had never heard before. It gave people a very comfortable feeling of enjoyment. Among the cultivators who participated in this party, none of them were lower than Qi Gathering 5th level, and there were many of them that Ning Cheng could not see through their cultivation. Li Buohong and the others also came in with a smile on their faces, and greeted some of the people that Ning Cheng could not see through their cultivation. In addition to Li Buohong and the others, Ning Cheng almost did not recognize the rest of them. At this time, a burst of sweet music sounded, and under the dim lights, Ning Cheng saw an E. At this time, an E was like a princess. The robe that she was wearing had long since disappeared, and was replaced by a set of light yellow robes. Although her head was still wrapped in a white scarf, but it showed a kind of fairy-like aura. It made her already extremely beautiful face look even more refined like a fairy. An E walked into the hall with a smile on her face. Her eyes were filled with happiness. Obviously, an E who had never been exposed to this kind of scene was very adaptable. At least in her eyes, there was no hesitation or uneasiness. Lu Shui and Yong Gu Yun were both accompanying an E, showing that an Yi's status was higher than them. With an Yi's appearance, a burst of warm applause sounded. Following behind an E was a youth with a jade-like face. His eyes had a trace of pride, and he was walking with full confidence. Ning Cheng did not need to ask. He could guess that this person should be the pure gold spiritual root Yu Hongfeng. An E stood on the stage to accept the welcome of the crowd, while her eyes were also looking around. Lu Shui whispered in an Yi's ear, "Junior apprentice sister An E, these people are the elite disciples and teachers of the Clear Heart Academy. Ning Cheng will not come here." An E nodded and retracted her gaze. Her eyes had a trace of sadness. "In fact, you should not have boarded the airship." An indifferent voice sounded in Ning Cheng's ear. Ning Cheng suddenly turned around and saw a familiar girl. This girl was the one he saw yesterday when he went to the middle-aged beautiful woman's room. At that time, he was just coming out of the middle-aged beautiful woman's room when this girl rushed in. Although it was just a passing, Ning Cheng still remembered it very clearly. "At least I know that my cousin is doing well and feel relieved," Ning Cheng said with a light smile, and turned around to leave. If he had not boarded the airship, he would have already died in the Mingot city. The girl suddenly said, "I think that when the airship stops at the next stop, it would be best for you to get off." "Believe me, that's right." After the girl said such an inexplicable sentence, she turned around and walked towards the bustling crowd in the middle of the party hall. Ning Cheng frowned. He did not have a good feeling about this. He was just about to pick up the glass of wine on the table next to him to take a sip, when he heard a familiar voice again. "You have already seen your cousin An E. She is doing very well, so you do not have to worry about her." "Thank you, senior. I really do not have to worry about her. This junior will take his leave." Ning Cheng gave up on picking up the glass of wine and said. He turned around and found that the person who was talking to him was the middle-aged beautiful woman who had given him the wooden plaque yesterday, but at this moment she did not have even half a bit of expression on her face. The middle-aged beautiful woman said indifferently, "Letting you come here, one is because you are An Yi's cousin, and the other is because of your good intentions. I am looking for you for something else. You can come with me." The bad feeling in Ning Cheng's heart was getting more and more intense, but he did not have any leeway to resist and could only follow the middle-aged beautiful woman out of the party hall. After the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, a burst of breeze blew past. Ning Cheng discovered that he was standing on the deck of the airship. Below the airship was an endless expanse of white clouds and blue sky. The breeze had passed through the airship's shielding array formation and blew in. It can be imagined, if there was no such shielding array formation, as long as he stood in this place, he would immediately be thrown off by the high-speed airship. Looking at the endless white clouds and blue sky under his feet, Ning Cheng felt a little dizzy. At this time he completely understood why this middle-aged beautiful woman had called him here. "Do you want me to jump from here?" Ning Cheng's tone became cold. For a chi-gathering 4th level cultivator to jump from such a high altitude, other than death, there was obviously no other way. The middle-aged beautiful woman nodded and said, "That's right, you have to jump from here, you have no choice." "But I have already agreed not to look for an E." Ning Cheng clenched his fists. He knew that this was a place where people's lives were treated as grass, but this was just too outrageous. Just because he knew an E, and an E had a pure spiritual root, they wanted to kill him. How could there be such a reason in this world? It seemed that as long as he was alive, an E would not be able to cultivate in peace. For the sake of an Yi's future, I have the responsibility to help an E cut off her worldly karma. You do not have to think about resisting. I can tell you, I am the Clear Heart Academy's true condensation 8th level Elder Lan Inu. You are just a chi-gathering 4th level cultivator. I do not need to move. I can let you jump from here. You are an Yi's cousin. I do not want to force you. You can jump by yourself. The middle-aged beautiful woman's tone was expressionless. "Ha!" Ning Cheng laughed. "You are a whore, but you still want to set up a chastity. You do not want to force me, Aiba. You are courting death." Lan Inu, who was originally very calm, after listening to Ning Cheng's words, immediately overflowed with a murderous aura. Ning Cheng knew that he did not have the ability to resist. He walked to the edge of the ship and stared at Lan Inu and said, "Lan Inu, I do not need you to do anything. I will choose myself. One day, you will regret what you did today, you whore." Lan Inu heard Ning Cheng call her a whore again, and immediately trembled with anger. She did not wait for Ning Cheng to start. Ning Cheng had already taken the initiative to jump from the edge of the ship. He knew that in front of Lan Inu, other than jumping, there was no other way. The airship's speed was very fast. When Ning Cheng jumped, the airship was already far away. Lan Inu was still unable to calm the anger in her heart. She did not think that a trivial chi-gathering 4th level little thing would dare to humiliate her like this. If she could fly, she would definitely fly out of the cabin, and then catch Ning Cheng and tear him inch by inch. Chapter 43. The reason why Ning Cheng dared to jump down was because he could release his spiritual sense. But when he really fell from the airship, the strong inertia of the fall made his heart sink. He barely cast the Imperial Wind technique, but under this kind of high altitude and inertia of the fall, he could only maintain the Imperial Wind technique for a short period of time. Not to mention that the time he could persist was very short. The powerful force falling from the sky made him use the Imperial Wind technique to consume a terrifying amount of chi. If he did not think of a way, he would definitely fall to his death in this place. Ning Cheng directly threw out the flying sword, and forcibly used his spiritual sense to control the flying sword. He was unable to make the flying sword wider, but he was barely able to make the flying sword fall under his feet. Whoosh whoosh. Amidst the air-piercing sound, the flying sword controlled by his spiritual force finally slowed down his speed. The huge consumption of spiritual sense and chi made Ning Cheng understand he could at most persist for a few breaths, and after a few breaths, he would not be able to safely land on the ground. Ning Cheng, without hesitation, took out a robe from his storage bag, and then tied the sleeves of the robe, and then grabbed a few corners of the robe in his hands, and then slightly relaxed his spiritual sense. After Ning Cheng's spiritual sense relaxed, the flying sword under his feet was immediately unable to support his weight. His whole body fell even faster. At this time the robe swelled up, forming a simple parachute, offsetting more than half of Ning Cheng's weight. After the weight was reduced, Ning Cheng once again forcibly controlled the flying sword. His spiritual sense finally did not need to consume so much. After a dozen breaths, Ning Cheng brought along a strong gust of wind as he rushed into a dense forest. Cuff! A few crisp sounds emerged as several branches were directly broken by Ning Cheng. Bang! Ning Cheng landed on the ground and immediately kicked out a bathtub-sized mud pit. Ning Cheng, who was completely exhausted, slowly breathed a sigh of relief. He finally escaped with his life. Apart from the consumption of his spiritual sense and qi, he only had a few simple scratches on his body. To him, this was already the best outcome. But he was surrounded by trees, and as he landed in the middle of the forest, he could only see a few rays of light coming from the top. Two screams of "Yong Yong" came straight down from the sky. Ning Cheng only saw a black shadow rushing towards him like a lightning bolt. Ning Cheng was startled in his heart and subconsciously dodged to the side. The black shadow had already flown past his shoulder like a lightning bolt. Ning Cheng felt a pain in his shoulder. Under the mottled light, his shoulder was unexpectedly scratched off. Ning Cheng did not expect that he would not be injured from falling from a height of 10,000 meters, but would be scratched by a bird. Another beast roar came. Ning Cheng's heart tightened. He knew that the place was definitely not a good. He quickly took out a spirit stone and held it in his hand. While seizing the time to restore his qi, he also grabbed the flying sword in his hand. When he had only recovered half of his true qi, the black shadow that had just scratched off a piece of skin on his shoulder flew down from the sky again. Ning Cheng was already prepared this time, as he raised the flying sword in his hand, causing a bloody mist to flash out. With a potted sound, a giant bird that looked somewhat like an owl fell to the ground. This was a Class 1 monstrous beast. Ning Cheng immediately recognized it. There were monarch beasts in this place. It was definitely not a good place. At this time in the forest, in addition to the roars of the beasts, there were also bursts of rustling sounds approaching. Ning Cheng jumped up and quickly left the place. He had vaguely guessed that this place should be inside the Dawn Forest. The airship certainly would not pass over the Dawn Forest. It should be flying along the edge of the Dawn Forest, but because of the inertia when he fell, he deviated into the Dawn Forest. At this time, he had to leave the Dawn Forest as soon as possible, otherwise even an essence-building cultivator would not dare to go through this place alone. If he stayed here it would only bode ill rather than well. Ning Cheng's injuries were not heavy, plus he used a spirit stone to restore his qi. In less than half an hour, his qi was completely restored, even his spiritual sense was almost restored. But Ning Cheng knew that he was lost. He was surrounded by towering trees on all sides. Even if the trees were sparse, there were still shrubs. There was simply no way out. Running around in this forest for a few hours, in addition to a variety of wild beasts, there were only a variety of snakes, insects, rats and ants. Even Class 1 monarch beasts, Ning Cheng had encountered them a few times. But because he was extremely clever, he did not confront these monarch beasts head-on. Half a day passed by, there was no longer any sunlight in the forest, and it was replaced by the pale-colored moonlight. Ning Cheng knew that he could not continue like this. He had to find a safe place to rest, and then formulate a strategy. Kacha! A crisp sound came from under his feet. Ning Cheng's foot slipped. He felt that he had stepped on a round stone. Ning Cheng subconsciously jumped to the side, and found that under his feet was a white skull. Then Ning Cheng saw the bones of a hand and a foot next to the skull. Not waiting for Ning Cheng to bend down to examine the origin of this skull, a fishy smell came from behind. Ning Cheng did not think. He directly moved to the side, and simultaneously sprang forward more than 10 meters. The defensive power of this monarch beast was simply too strong. The red-eyed monarch beast once again roared, and just when it was about to continue to rush towards Ning Cheng, an even more exciting roar came from a distance. This red-eyed monarch beast pricked up its ears to listen to the roar coming from a distance, and unexpectedly gave up its fight with Ning Cheng, as it turned around and quickly ran back, and in a twinkling of an eye disappeared into the vast woods. Ning Cheng slowly sighed. This place really was not a good place. He had to find a place to improve his strength first, otherwise he would not be able to come out of this place, and perhaps he would be killed by the monarch beasts in this place. Ning Cheng put away his flying sword, as he sped up and rushed towards the sparkling forest lake that he had seen before. The forest lake was surrounded by an open area, as such he could easily arrange a low-level defensive array formation. Even if a high-level monarch beast came, he would have enough time to escape. The forest lake was not far from Ningcheng, and in just a few dozen breaths, Ningcheng had already arrived at the edge of the forest lake. This lake was a few dozen feet in size. If such a lake was placed outside, it would appear to be huge. But in this towering forest, it did not appear to be huge at all. Ningcheng walked around the lake for a few dozen feet, but did not find a good place to take shelter. Just when he wanted to see if there was a good place around the lake that he could hide in, the lake suddenly sprayed out a few feet-high spray of water. Ningcheng was startled and quickly retreated a few meters away. But in this lake, other than the spray of water, there was nothing else unusual. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.